Lord, we thank you for this night, Lord, we can all gather here before you, Lord, and try to do your will and what's best for the residents of the town of Fort White. Pray that you be with us all, Lord, that you guide us and give us wisdom, that you protect anyone who isn't here or may be on their way in these conditions, and everyone who's here on their way back home, Lord, that you protect them in this weather. And we just give you thanks for this opportunity. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call this meeting in order. This is Keen, if you would please do the roll call.
Mayor Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Terry.
Here.
Councilmember Kuhn.
Here.
Councilmember Merrick's.
Here.
Town clerk here. Town attorney.
Here. All right, very well. So, last meeting, meeting got a little bit disorganized. So I just asked everyone to please abide by the rules of professionalism and civility. If things get too out of hand, I can just call a recess and we can come back and try again. Okay. Additions, deletions, changes, and approval of the agenda. I want to bring up that it may make sense to at least make a decision or a preliminary decision on if we want a new town clerk and or assistant town clerk, if we want to add that to the agenda. Now's the time. Mrs. Burkeen's last day is Friday, and this is Johnson's last day, is next Tuesday, the 28th, at which point we won't have anyone here in town hall running the day-to-day operations. We have some applicants, the resumes are here, so just for the council to consider whether or not we want to make at least a decision on having someone, even if it's just an interim or someone just to pay the bills until.
Are you adding that as an item?
Yes.
Okay.
And add that.
That would be number 12.
Well, can you just add it alongside 2 and 3?
Well, it's a separate item.
Separate,
so,
okay.
Yes. It'll be number 12.
Yeah, we can.
We've had a request to delete number 5.
Okay.
And we need to add number 13,
Not opposed.
which is to just informative on the RFP for audit services that I was instructed by the town council to send out a couple months ago.
Oh, yes, okay. That's for the audit.
So we're adding number 12 and number 13 and deleting number 5.
And I would like to add, bringing the contract for the equipment back. Whether we're gonna sign that piece of paper or not.
The reversion agreement,
So that requires a motion.
that'll be number 14 then.
Well, we need a motion for that one.
You need a motion to approve all of them.
Okay. So we'll have to wait for a motion for that one.
So we're adding 12, 13, 14, and deleting 5.
Okay?
Wait, so the new 5, let me reorder these. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
When we have open discussion with council people, do I need to add each thing? Like I would like to discuss the depot for a few minutes. I would like to see if the chorus can sing for us next month, which would involve moving down there. Do those need to all be items?
So the depot is on here, so you're good on that one. You can request the board to move it on to do.
So
We
that
discuss
needs,
it during council conference, too.
that's what I'm saying,
Citizen
can it be
comments.
during council
Yeah,
conference?
we have. Well, for citizen.
It's council member comment.
Oh, we don't.
Remember, we
Oh, yeah.
requested council comments
Oh,
as
yeah.
a separate item.
But if we discuss the
Well-
course, then does that have to be voted on, that we have to meet down
Oh,
there?
that involve moving?
Yeah, that would.
Yeah, I would say
That
that-
would cover so many in the course of saying.
Oh, okay, yeah, you may want to consider that.
Add just because if we get, we go on.
So we're adding 15 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So item 15 will be location of February meeting?
Yeah. Well, and the chorus, just add the choruses.
Okay. Need a motion to then to approve the agenda with the changes?
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda with the changes.
Second,
Okay, all in favor of approving the new agenda with these changes, say aye. Aye. Okay, all opposed, say nay. Okay, this is the new agenda. Connie, you said add, when you were numbering them, since we removed 5, wouldn't now the sewer update be 5?
Well, it's going to be too confusing to do
No,
that.
so just leave it as.
Just
okay.
leave them like they are.
I just want to make sure I'm tracking
Yeah,
as I'm going
that'd
through.
be too confusing.
Okay. Okey-dokey. Approval of the minutes for the December 16 town council meeting and the December 9 special town council meeting. If we have a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
I don't have a paper on the map. I can't prove it
You don't see it in
on
the.
the inside. I have-
The 16th is 3 pages and the 9th is
Okay. I didn't get that far enough.
2 pages.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes on the December 16th and the December 9th meeting. Special.
Okay, all in favor of approving the previous meeting minutes, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay. Those are approved. Okay, public comments. I see we've got a few comment cards here. I'll just go here in the order they're in. We got Lonnie Harrell. Mr. Harrell?
Yes,
You want to come up?
Sure.
Go ahead and state your name again and then.
Bobby Harris, resident of Fort White. I just wanted to publicly thank the members of the council that are the member that's resigning, Mr. Florence, for his service to the town. And I also want to publicly thank the town clerk and the assistant town clerk for their efforts, here at the town, especially Connie. I read her resignation letter, and I personally have never had an issue with the service that she's provided with me personally. I've never had an issue whatsoever, anything I've ever called for, which has been very little. She's addressed it, and I want to thank you for that. And I also want to just say that her accomplishments here should not be overlooked, because she has brought the town up to modern standards. So thank you for that, Connie.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harrell. We also have Jackie Sullick. You want to come up, state your name, Mrs. Sullick, and
Mayor, Town Council, I am ditto. I'm here. My name is Jackie Sulik. I live at 209 Southwest Paisley Court, and I want to acknowledge and thank these administrators here. And I urge anybody who has not read the resignation letter to read it, because her list of accomplishments is quite impressive. It's hard to believe this town even functioned before she came here. Her organizational skills, her attention to detail, her professional approach to everything she did. She brought new perspectives to the town. She even coaxed us to the edge of the nest, though we haven't jumped yet. But as politics have grown increasingly contentious, I am not surprised that she's had enough. Life is short. But as my favorite musician, Joni Mitchell, says, you don't know what you got till it's gone. So thank you, Connie.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Ms. Sullick. And we got James Richardson. Mr. Richardson would come up, state your name and your comment.
Hi, I'm James Richardson. I live at on Cullen Avenue, right behind the Baptist Church. And I too had on my list to thank the clerks. I know the work has been amazing they've done. I've already expressed personally, Ms. Connie, my business, and wants to thank you, council, for allowing me to speak. My intention was to speak to the vacancy, which is an agenda item. Should I go ahead now, or?
So it's not on here, but you're supposed to wait until citizen comments, but you can go ahead.
Okay, well, I think and I hope over the years my service has shown the people I love the town and the people of the town. I'm a long-term homeowner, formed a business here back in 2004. I respect the council very much, what you guys do, and thank you for your service. I've always had an open door, made myself available to any and everybody that wants to talk to me about anything. I'm one of those people you can agree to disagree with, and we still can have civil relations. And I have put my name in to be considered to fill the seat that I used to sit in. Some of you may know I've sat on council for a little over 4 years. In the District 2 seat, I'm actually the last person that was elected to sit in that seat by the meeting. So I appreciate your consideration, and thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
All right, so the first item is resignation of Councilmember Florence. So I'll be thanking him personally, but I want to also take this opportunity here publicly in this meeting to thank council. He's not, I don't think he's here, but it'll be on camera at least. Thank him for his service, his professionalism. Speaking with Connie, he would do a lot of research, call her all the time before the meeting, so he knew what was going on and really took an interest in the town and the town business. So I want to thank you. You watch, Mr. Florence. Thank you. And that's any comments on that or before we move on?
Thank you for your service.
Okay. We have the resignation of the town clerk. So I want to take this opportunity as well. I want to thank you, Connie. And I'll come in tomorrow on Friday and do it probably a little more personally for all your accomplishments and for everything good and well you have done for the town. And if anyone else have anything?
Again, thank you for your service, Connie.
You're welcome.
Okay. And the same for the third item for the assistant town clerk, Mrs. Johnson. I want to thank you for everything you've done and your professionalism and working with me. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
You're welcome.
And okay, if there's no council comments on those first three items, we'll move on to Main Street and the train depot update by Mr. Sanders. So Doug, if you just, I guess, want to give a brief update on Main Street and for the train depot.
Let me read this first. This is from Catherine Beck, the state coordinator from the Florida Main Street. It says January the 10th, 2025 at 11 a.m. She writes, "Hi Doug, we are still awaiting final acceptance from the Secretary of State of the ad hoc committee's recommendation. I apologize for the delay and expect his response at any time." Have you heard any more?
You know, I would never think I would say that Tallahassee is snowed under. So there's going to be a delay. But I also received that email, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity. We have several new members on the council, and I thought maybe I could do a review again like I did with the old council. What is Main Street, and what will happen to the town of Fort White when that letter does come from Tallahassee. And on the next slide, the handout that I gave to the council is a review of everything that will be available to the council. You will have a state coordinator assigned to you. The executive director will be attending Main Street conferences, quarterly meetings. The Fort White Main Street will have technical assistance, and we'll have updates from Tallahassee concerning trends and educational workshops. Now on the second slide, remember the apprenticeship is 3 years. For 3 years, you'll be participating in the Main Street program. And I won't read all this, but you can see what's done in the first year, the second year, and the third year. It's pretty busy, and whoever is selected as the executive director will be busy. Especially when you have a brand new entity, and you're going to have to decide what will Main Street be, what will Main Street do, what does Main Street want for the town of Fort White, what kind of image, what kind of tourist destination can Fort White be. That's going to be determined over the next 3 years. The next slide, the Main Street program will give comprehensive goals, objectives, and work plans. They will work closely with the executive director, and even though the executive director will be part-time, I can guarantee you the person will be working full-time because there's a lot of work going on. And also, the town has committed the depot as the Main Street offices for the next 3 years. They'll be supported by computer and technologies of that availability. And the executive director will even have a chance to hopefully attend the national conference of Main Street. On the next slide, this gives you an idea what Main Street has done in the state of Florida from 1985 to 2023. The numbers speak for themselves. This is amazing. Among the 40 or 50 Main Street cities over the last few years, and as I've had verified by Tallahassee, Fort White is now officially the smallest Main Street city to receive this designation. The other city previously was 800 people, and I think Fort White is 600, maybe less. So it's a pretty small city, but this is an awesome responsibility for Main Street to live up to that commitment that Tallahassee has seen in Fort White. And I showed the presentation last month, the pictures that were taken to the town, 25 pictures, just to give an overall view for the people in Tallahassee when they ask me, what is Main Street? What's there? What is happening in Columbia County? And I think our application answered that question. They saw a lot of merit, and they gave us a unanimous vote for this conference. And my next slide is on the depot. Now, the town had Andy and I to seek a state historic grant. We did not make that grant. So I'm recommending if you decide that you want to go again, Shannon Williams has won grants for the town in the past, including the depot. Because I feel the depot, I will be going to Tallahassee in March to make a presentation to have the depot put on the National Register. It's a very complicated position, and it's been more complicated when our research showed that the depot became private property. It was moved off its location, and then it was brought back, but not at the exact location. It's 1,000 feet off. So in the eyes of Tallahassee, they're concerned that the depot may have lost some of its historic character. And my argument is going to be, we're not designating the ground. The building goes back to 1900. The building that we see out here is historic. And so that's going to be my argument. I'm going to try to remind Tallahassee that Mount Vernon is going through a major renovation right now, $30 million. I can assure you when that's completed, that's not going to be the same home George Washington lived in. And if it can work for Mount Vernon, it's going to work here. I'm going to try to get this depot on the National Register like it did in Tennessee. Dade City and Fort White both have depots that were on the Atlantic Coastline Railroad. And that's a brief summary. I gave handouts to the council members. You can look at the detail, and I will be available for Main Street when that letter does come. I'll be glad to come up here, hopefully in warmer conditions, and work with the committee, and hopefully everybody that signed up for Main Street back in our August organizational meeting, be patient, because when you look at the videos last night, the state line in Georgia and Tallahassee, there were 6 inches of snow on the interstate. So let's give our friends in Tallahassee some time. That letter is coming. They have confirmed we're the smallest city, and the town has read the email that the letter's coming in today. I'll be glad to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions for on Main Street?
I have a question of where is Shannon Williams? This says Gateway, does that mean the college?
That's her email.
Here in Lake City?
Yeah. And in fact, she supported our application. And so it'd be like one lawyer assisting another lawyer on the opposite side. And so she's done work with the county, and she has done work with the city. And so I wholeheartedly ask you to reconsider her again, because I looked at the depot and the caboose this afternoon. The caboose took a hit during that last hurricane. The roof really looks bad. So we have got to get that caboose taken care of. It's not going to be around much longer. The damage looked pretty extensive.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sanders. Item 6, we have a update on the project of the sewage from Board of Professional Services. Go ahead and state your name and give your presentation.
Good evening, Brian Roach from North Florida Professional Services. I've met new council here. I've been here, I think, maybe 2 other presentations in the last 6, 8, 9, 12 months. But so I just wanted to give an update where we stand, and I think it's a great project for the town. And you know, someone like me grew up near the Zitchtucky River, so anytime you can do anything to help the watersheds, that's a great thing. So I just want to go through what we have here. Is it's really we'll call it 3 phases, but also kind of 2 areas. So we're looking at the first phase of this project. Came about a grant received several years ago to build. It was about 5.2 million. I might be off a couple $100,000 or something. And it was to build a wastewater treatment plant and 79 parcels, which we're calling Area 1. So you look up on the graph, it's kind of the area that's not black outlined. So you look at the numbers, top northwest, 1 through 33 in that area. Got the central areas, both the yellow and the blue, and also it had, that adds up to 79 parcels. Then we went out probably, I don't know, 14, 15 months ago, Connie, we worked together and folks at FPS, and they found another $4.5 million grant. Total's about 9.2, 9.3, correct?
9.8, actually.
No, okay, 9.8, yeah. Did my math wrong. Usually pretty good at math. Thank you, Ricky. And so that allowed us to go ahead and grab more of what we call an Area 2, so more flow going to the wastewater plant that's going to be built, and also have more parcels to be converted from septic tanks to sewers. So this overall, which is kind of Area 1 and 2, we'll end up having about 40,000 gallons a day at build out if all 79 parcels would connect. We do know that there's 14 or 15 vacant lots of this 79 plus 54, excuse me, starting 133 parcels. So we know we got some vacant lots, about 35 are commercial and the rest are residential. Some of the key items on this, that there's no cost to the parcel owners when the initial connection, which is a great thing. Over the last 20 years I've seen in utility world grants. 20 years ago, customers were paying connection fees and various different things like that. So basically it's a free hookup. You do it initially for some reason, and really what we understand is everyone can be hooking up with those parcels, but the future would cost money if it wasn't hooked up immediately. So I want to go to the next slide, kind of a little bit of, what does this consist of? And we mentioned 133 connections. There'll be 4 lift stations. The lift stations are little green dots, LSL 1, 2, 3, and 4. And those lift stations collect the sewer from the gravity, and then they have 2 submersible pumps in it. They're below ground, and then it pumps out through force mains, we call it, and they'll have like 6-inch force mains going through the pipes and going down to the bottom left in the gray area, and the green area is the wastewater treatment plant. And that consists of 2 25,000 gallon a day trains, we call it. It's basically concrete structures that hold the sewage and treat it. They're parallel, so you can have some different backup capacity, what have you. Eventually that could build out to 100,000 gallons, but right now you're going to get 50,000 gallons. And the gray area and the green area is a spray field. So the green is now, and the gray is for future build out if there's more money available in future years to connect, basically double that capacity. Probably is worth mentioning some of the areas that are not connected, or is that kind of a pinkish, reddish, magenta color up top, and the orange. That area is like where the school is, and what we've done is put in the design connection points. We make sure this pipe is going to be large enough so those connections happen in future years. It can come down through the system and get treated when the plant gets built out. This, approximately almost $10 million. So there's only so much we do in one time. In the future, future grants probably could be available. Certainly, any information we get from DEP, anything to support the basin in this area, and removing septic tanks and sewers is a expensive process, but the DEP certainly has supported that throughout communities, and communities like Fort White with the Itchitutte and Santa Fe rivers is certainly high on the list of what they call a BMAP, a Basin Management Action Plan. They want to reduce nitrogen in water bodies. So it's a great story for the project. The bid, we're focused on getting bids in April, which is several months away. Construction starts usually, a contract will be awarded a couple months after that in June. And this is going to be anywhere from a 16 to 18-month construction project. Some will be like inside the fence line, and then out in the streets there will be, there's no 2 ways about it. When you're digging up streets, putting gravity mains there, that is an impact to the infrastructure and the folks there. But you got to look at the long term. Communities are usually pretty happy to have that happen. Next slide, please. This is an important subject, easements. So there are 14 parcels that need easements, and the easement is the property owners, and Mr. Lindsay can correct me anywhere on this, the property owners still own the property, but give rights to run utilities through it. And there's 14 of them. 2 are by the town of Fort White, so that's no problem. It's been identified for a long time to a need for that. And then 2 are the same owners. So you look at, there's a total of about 11 different owners of these parcels that the easements are need to run. Usually it's a 20-foot easement, give or take, and it's underground, so it shouldn't obstruct anything for use. We try to make sure from the technical side to minimize the impacts, put on the edge of property where you can. I believe the town has contacted, and we've been involved in a couple of conversations technically, 5 or 6 of these parcel owners at this point in time. Certainly the ones in Area 1, the first 79, those are ahead of the game because that has been further designed. The Area 2 design really did start several months ago when the extra 4.5 million came in. We kind of really try to accelerate that work to get these 2 paths running parallel and go out to bid. So that is a critical item. So I know Connie has sent some information out, contacted customers or parcel owners, and we provided some legal descriptions. So we as NFPS provide technical information, but it needs to be by the council and the council and the council. Go ahead, Mr. Coon.
Have we had any feedback on what we contacted?
Yeah, certainly the first 5 or 6 had some great feedback. One of them, and Ricky can correct me on anything, that we had it probably going a little bit too far into their property. So because we had a ditch in the area of storm drainage, so we moved it closer to it as far as we could possibly. We had another one that was contacted. We're concerned about more. I'd say it's more legal terminology of liability and risk if you put a pipe in the easement. I think just to kind of work through that, understanding what the property owners see in other parts of the state or country. And then 1 or 2 of them, we might have switched one. I think we weren't able to.
Redesigned, we moved a few.
We removed a few, certainly in Area 1. So we feel like the Area 1 is fairly, I don't know the right word is, promising for those who come through. The Area 2 contact has been less, right, Connie?
Yes, that's just starting.
Yeah. So we did work through some details, at least half of those Area 1, we had to work some details, and technically we had to move a pipe, we did that, but it is a concern. So we will get that be brought here in the next months. I think, when we look at it from a commercial point of view, that a parcel owner gets a lot of benefit by removing the septic tank and have centralized sewer into it. So usually there's a desire for property owners to want this improved infrastructure. But there is contact issues every now and then. If you have a trust or something out of state, and I think there is one like that right now, a little concerned about you mailing letters to them.
And on one of them, we're doing a property swap. We need to put a lift station in a certain area, and the property owner has access issues with not having an easement to gain access to their property over which the town owns the property. So we're going to offer a trade for a certain parcel of the property for in trade for a corner in the back of their property to put the lift station. So it's not right out in front of US 27. It'll be in the back of their property.
So it's like almost like a win-win situation, should benefit the town, the design.
That letter went out today.
I see two of them before I drove out here.
Yeah.
So there's no initial cost to the residents. So this is a $10 million project. I mean, how Fort White gonna support that without help? And I know they don't get grants to run it. They get grants to build it.
Mr. Kuhn, can I finish the slide and come
Yeah,
back when
yeah.
I think about it? I'll come back
Yeah,
to the
go
bottom
ahead.
of the slide, because I think some of what I'm going to go through here talks about umbrellas that, and then and make sure I hit every point of that,
Yeah,
okay?
go ahead.
At the end. So, when you look at this, it's environmental sustainability. How can you improve the environment? And centralized water sewer is where everything's going to, all throughout the country. Certainly Florida, and I could be wrong on the number, but Florida probably has 2 million septic tanks. It's some huge number. I know in Duval County there was 65,000 septic tanks, and I could still remember a professor at UNF 15, 20 years ago saying that Florida hadn't worried about anywhere. Us being the third largest state, you can believe that. So that is certainly the way of the future with the springs. How you take wastewater and treat it to effluent disposal methods. There's an advantage of having that. There's a push to have lower nitrogen reduction. It provides for the commercial entities, if you want a grocery store, restaurants, the requirements to treat that on site would be significant compared to if you got centralized sewers. You operate a restaurant, you operate a business, you pay a bill, and you allow the municipal entity to manage the water wastewater services. So related to that is really economy of scale, in which I'll touch on and come back to. When you got economy of scale, whether it's one parcel owner trying to treat their wastewater, or a town with 133, or a larger entity, a utility of 100,000 customers, the economy of scale is that. So that's part of the discussion that you asked there. I think you got a plan for the future. You want to have build out. We hope to that the town can get a future grants and have a 100,000 gallon day plant, which will help with economy of scale. The plant capacity, even initially with the 133, you got some empty parcels, and those are design criteria of how many gallons per day. But once it gets up and running, whether it's we'll really run at 40,000 gallons a day, we'll run at 30,000 gallons a day, and there's pros and cons. From a engineer capacity point of view, you'd rather have a little less flow. You'd rather have 30, 35,000. It allows you to put new customers into it. From a revenue point of view, and a revenue and expense, you'd rather have as much flow going through that plant as possible, so you get more revenues going into it. And then you mentioned the state grants. Yes, the state, and I've never been aware of an operating grant. It's always been a capital grant to build. Certainly, when we were working with DEP, related to some smaller facilities similar to this one, and this one, that is a concern of DEP when they give grants, because too many times in the last decades that facilities will get built, but are they taken care of 5, 10, 15, 20 years later? And that's a concern of all the folks who involved in the utility business and the people who give grants. And back to the customers, there's no initial cost to connect. Connection costs around the state are probably anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 per customer. So that's a significant value added to every property owner. And really the cost maybe on smaller utilities is probably in the neighborhood of $15,000 to $20,000. That's a cost allocation. Maybe they're not paying that because it's subsidized some manner. So, that's where the benefits of this is. And then, want to go through that and just kind of put the slide up and answer any questions about the technical. And then if the council has any other questions like you had, please let me know. I'll try to answer that a little bit more complete. So, this is what we got. It's 133 connections, 4 lift stations. Get this built. I think people, when it's built, will be happy to have centralized sewer. Then you got to look at the next steps. And then I think it's economy of scale is good. So going from 50 to 100, and then you think about how to maintain that and operate it efficiently.
Anybody got any other questions here? Yeah, go ahead.
Where could someone go and see this map?
This will be on your meeting notes, and where do you post it?
This will be on our website.
Okay.
Under the agenda packet for tonight.
Okay.
I want to add something on the BMAP part of it. BMAP we're in a high recharge area. Fort White is in a high recharge area. And we met with the people from the BMAP that are doing the BMAP, and we submitted our projects, and they have said to us that because we are in a high recharge area, that for future funding and expansion of this project, that because we are in the high recharge area, that it would be looked on very favorably by participating in the BMAP program.
Yeah, that was like follow up to the $4.5 million that, and then this plan is going to get designed to 3 milligrams per liter. That's the future requirements that the DEP communicates. It's not a rule everywhere, but everyone sees the movement going that way. And at this point, centralized sewer is the way to do that. Individual septic systems aren't up to that technology at this point.
Trevor Noyes from your firm is the engineer that was very helpful, and he and I submitted the BMAP plan and the BMAP projects to the facility, to the agency, and they were very, very complimentary about our projects.
Mr. Crowe, you got a question?
Go ahead, sir.
Along the lines of what Mr. Kuhn was saying, the grants are going to cover the construction, and then when it's all done, the construction companies are going to leave and the plant is going to be ready to be operated. There's going to be no money left from those grants. So is it that the charge per month from these 133 residents will have to be an amount that will cover the maintenance, the supplies, the operating costs, and the employee to monitor that system?
I'd probably moderate. Great question. And one edit, it'd be employees, because one employee couldn't do this all by themselves. You have to have a license. You have to have the licenses to operate it. You'll have maintenance. At times, you'll hire contractors. You'll have chemicals you buy. A lot of energy costs. And to operate a plant, similar if someone was nice enough to give me a brand new car. I'm happy they gave me a brand new car, a truck. And I have no problem figuring out how to, anyone get a brand new car, we'll try to get gas in and change oil. And you probably change the tires, you save up for that. But 5, 7 years from now, the AC breaks or transmission goes, you have to plan for that. So you do have to plan for depreciation, renewal replacement, or there's different words you use, asset management, and they're all mean the same thing. When those, this will not last forever, brand new, and so you got to have the money put aside as you go. So I think typically what you see, whether it's, big counties do it. I don't think the friends in Miami would mind saying their system, they're putting billions of dollars in the last 5-10 years, and they didn't before that. And they had consent orders and things like that where they had to go put billions of dollars because it probably didn't keep up with the system. So that happens all around the country with big, small, or little, and certainly economy scale always helps. And you have to plan for it. And in the first year or two, I'll fill that gas can up all the time, and tires are new, and AC's working perfect, but how do you got to plan for that in the future?
We'll take
Go ahead.
one more question, then we'll move on.
Can I have a question about his answer there.
Go ahead.
So can you provide a projected cost for years 1 through 5 or long-term versus short-term so that we know what the residents are going to have to pay each month just to cover the operation?
I think to answer that on a macro level, around Florida, a water sewer bill is in the $100 range, plus or minus, depending on if it's water and sewer, depending on the utilities, depending on the cost allocation, depending on the economy scale, depending on to do that. I was trying to look at it, I found it the other day, but we presented some numbers. I think it was the Joint Utility Commission meeting. It was either November 2023 or 2023 or October. I could be off a month. November 2023 is out there on the web. I just wasn't able to find it tonight, but I did find it last week. So that's out there on the Joint Utility Commission. That was, it might have the committee or commission, the word was. Yeah, so it's out there on the web. That shows cost and did present that to a public meeting that's available.
Okay, Mr. Ford, go ahead.
As a citizen of Fort White, I also have a question. Mr. Harold.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I thought we were speaking from the seat tonight. Everybody has. So my question is, as a concerned citizen of Fort White also, about Mr. Harold, who's going to oversee the construction? Who's going to do the inspections? Who's paying for that? Is that going to be paid for out of the grant money? And is that something that that there's funding for?
I can answer that. The grant pays for engineering service or construction, but that's not inspection of construction. That's, a pump gets submitted. Is it the right horsepower that you spec? Is the metallurgy correct? So engineering services are, but not the actual construction inspection.
You'll have to, somebody's going to have to inspect pipes and compaction under the roads. And, there's going to be quite a bit of inspection work to be done also.
And there are different levels of different projects, and yes, there will be.
And I know back in 2022, I believe it was, the estimated cost for 1 year of operation and maintenance was 120 plus. I'm sure that number has went up dramatically over the last couple of years. How's Fort White going to fund that? My question also is a concern. Because obviously I'm going to be hooked to this sewer. I'm kind of, same thing with Mr. Harold. We got to be able to afford it. I'm all for it, don't get me wrong, I'm all for the sewer. But, I was in on the talks from the original ground floor of the grant, getting the grants and everything else. And at that time, when all this was approved and granted, it was a shared project with the county and the town of Fort White. Now, I understand the town of Fort White is going on its own, and that's a big leap of faith. And it's going to be a big hit on the citizens that live inside Fort White that's got to pay for this. So I ask that y'all think about it, planning before you take that leap.
Thank you. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Oh,
I have a question, because someone's going to ask, is it a mandatory hookup?
I think the intent has always been that way. Connie and the council can look at and the Lord can look at the ordinances and other actions that this board or council has taken. But that is the intent.
I have a question.
Lindsay or Connie, did I want to correct anything I said there?
just state your name.
Thank you. Stu Oakley, Columbia County Observer. I'm 6.5 miles down the road. So, North South Florida Professional Services is doing the design and the engineering, is that correct?
Yes.
And then you're gonna bid out, you guys are gonna bid out the construction?
We provide bid documents, engineering plans, which are drawings, and we provide specifications and a bid sheet, and then it gets bid out with the town. So we as engineers provide the bid documents, how that exactly gets bidded out. That's, the entity gets to decide that.
And who rates the bids? I know you guys have done that in the past. Who rates the bids when they come in? Who determines who gets the job? Is that just the town council?
I'm here today to talk about the technical things, in the sense of this project. So I think those are things for the council to work through. We make sure there's plans, there's specs, there's bid documents, bid ready to go to bid. Typically the councils or the towns will advertise it, and then in between that can be worked out.
Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you. I think, what was your last, your last?
Brian Roach, if I didn't say it, I'm an engineer with North Florida Professional Services.
Thank you very much.
Wait a minute, I'm not through.
Mr. Mayor.
I got put off while ago.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm worried about the operation and the maintenance of this plant.
Yes.
Fort White's always, the water bill was always our water. I mean, that's the way Fort White lived. They spent the money. They didn't save it and put it up for this, to rebuild that water every time. Now, I'm under the impression in these cities that you try to keep the water and sewage as low as you can to get the people to come in really for the tax money. You don't try to make your money off of water and sewage and garbage, and you try to keep it low as possible. So how is 133 connections going to support the plant when you said multiple employees? So that means at least 2 more that knows that's got to have certifications. I mean, aren't we talking a pretty high price?
Yeah, I think, like it's mentioned, Mr. Gwinnett, you might have been in that meeting. It was November or October. I did spend the time putting those numbers together.
Yeah, you were talking quick.
I
mean, I'm not trying to talk over our head, but you was speeding through the meeting and nobody asked me any questions.
Yes.
So this council here has not seen, unless the mayor's seen some of this, these other ladies have not seen none of this project.
Yes, and thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm trying to do the work, and I do think, as an engineer, it's great to try to improve the quality of the water treatment, wastewater treatment, to have good effluent going out. But the cost is there, and it's across the country. And probably, whether it's 20, 30, 40% of the utilities in the country are challenged by that same thing. And there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum where a large utility, several large municipals in the state actually give money to the town. I'm talking of 10, 20, 30, 40 million dollars a year that they actually go the other way. But at least half the utilities in the country are either maybe get funded by, and I'm going back from 10 years ago, the information where somebody I worked with researching, half the utilities in the country were getting money from the municipalities or the entities to help fund it because they needed that. I certainly, we can Google on Atlanta gets a tax. Atlanta's bills are the highest in the country, and I haven't looked at it 5-7 years. They actually have a tax, a sales tax that goes to pay $150 million a year to pay the water service system. So there's different ways of doing that in different cities and towns. You want to be self-sustaining. Certainly when I came from in Duval County was sending over $20 million a year from the utility into the city, the other way around, because you had economy of scale.
Yeah.
So those numbers are published, and those numbers are wrong, because as soon as you put a forecast down, it's wrong. I'm a finance guy too. Any number you put down is wrong, but they're appropriate. They're appropriately in the magnitude of being the right magnitude of issues, and you can always change things a little bit to make it a little more efficient, but you've got to be able to take care of the asset. And that asset's $10 million, and it's got a 30-year life on average. That's $300,000 a year.
It just seems like to me the 133 hookups is about what you need to save the money to fix the plant later down the line. Because it's going to be expensive. If it's a $10 million deal, you're going to spend millions somewhere down the road somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we all agree, regardless of what we decide to do with this, gotta do it in a way that's financially responsible. And the residents will have to weigh in, so.
It's a good thing, but it has to be.
Thank you.
It's okay, it's okay, but any more questions for us tonight? I might start my drive, that's okay?
Oh,
Or you want me to
go
start?
ahead.
All right, we good? We've been up and we're sir?
Thank you.
Thank you. Was thinking there was gonna be ice on the road, but
Yeah.
we lucked out, didn't we, tonight? Appreciate having us.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Y'all have a good night. Thank y'all.
Bye.
I didn't see you, sorry.
That's okay. Say it.
Okay, we have a presentation by Ms. Donna Lee from the Alzheimer Association. I don't know if she's here.
She has Alzheimer's.
Donna Lee.
Yeah, she forgot. She forgot.
Sorry, didn't make it.
Well, all right, I guess she isn't here. Number 8, the Scott, what is it, Small Community Outreach Program Choices for
Yes.
submissions to DOT. Go ahead, Mrs. Burkett.
Yes. Every year, the DOT solicits for a period of time to municipalities to submit for Small County Outreach Program, and that is a program wherein you apply for road projects, and they take into consideration the project, the cost, etc. And last year, we were awarded Yulon Street. The projects are due in for consideration. We usually submit 3. They're due in by March 15th this year, and we have prioritized that number 1 be Cullen Avenue, number 2 be Bryant from Yulon up to the school, and number 3 be Well and Donnelly. So those 3 projects are being worked on by Kellen Bailey with North Florida Professional Services to come up with the costs and the scope of work to be submitted to DOT for consideration on this next funding go-round. Because we're a small municipality, we fall into the 2-year category instead of the 5-year work plan for DOT. So Yulon, that was approved last fiscal year, will be done in 2026. These that are being done for 2025, the one, if we get approved for any additional projects, they would be done in 2027.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was an update. Anyone have any questions for Mrs. Burkeen on that? Okay. Okay. Yeah. North Florida Professional Services, they fill out the grant paperwork and we vote to approve it.
They do the scope of work and they do the estimate of costs, and then it's turned over to the town to submit under the GAP software that the DOT has that you have to go in and submit.
Oh, on that GAP website, okay. Okay, thank you. All right. Agenda item 9.
This is drug-free workplace policy for the town of Fort White. The town's never had one, and with us changing insurance carriers last month, effective January 1, we changed from FMIT to Piggott. We saved quite a bit of money doing that, and in order to obtain a discount on our workers' comp insurance portion of our insurance policy, they are recommending that we implement a drug-free workplace policy. This policy is mirrored after one that was adopted by the city of Bushnell and was suggested that we use as a template by the insurance agents. So that's what we did. We took the policy and we edited it to be germane to the town of Fort White.
And we'll wait for Councilman Kuhn to come back, but I read through it. I was going to open it up to the council if they had any questions on the drug-free workplace policy.
When would this need to be implemented?
It needs to be implemented as soon as possible.
So have we considered a lab or MRO?
Yes, it's in the policy.
Yeah, so there's a
Lake City Laboratories is who the county uses, and I contacted them, and the medical officer is listed in the policy, as well as Lake City Labs, and we've set up an account with Lake City Labs, and they're going to charge $45 per test. New hires would need to be tested, as well as if anyone is in an accident or has a workers' comp claim.
What about any safety sensitive positions, anyone that holds a CDL or anything, do they have to submit to the?
We don't have anybody with CDLs.
CDL's gonna be drug tested anyway, by this guy's thing.
But so in here, we can't, like, for example, for heavy machinery or anyone who operates that, if we have, what was the terminology, reasonable cause or something, we can make them submit to
That's
it.
exactly what
correct.
happens. They bump into a sign and bend it and drive across somebody's yard, they send them up there and have them tested.
You'll be testing them often.
That might be part of it, but that's what happens.
All right, so the floor is open for a motion on this, if you want to,
Motion to approve.
yeah, motion to approve the,
I make a motion to approve the drug-free workplace policy.
okay, so we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the Town of Fort White drug-free workplace policy and procedure, say aye. Aye. Okay, all opposed, say nay. Okay. Town of Fort White drug-free workplace policy is approved. We'll send this over to the insurance. All right, item 10, what's next? The appeal filed by Brad Dix. So it's two, I believe, one for the, pull this up here, one for the special appellate review for the special use permit, and then one for the site plan. So we'll go ahead and open up, invite Mr. Dix to come up. We'll open up this quasi-judicial meeting. And Mr. Dix. Oh, yeah, please, if you would, please, yeah.
There's a
Go ahead.
point of order, I'm not first. There's a published direction that you're going that begins with the presentation by the applicant. May check with your attorney that I was provided by town staff that the order of business in the Code of Development will be followed tonight.
Yeah, so it says introduction of the petition by the chair of the board or council. So that, I mean,
The entire application needs to be presented here by the applicant of what he's asked to do, what he's doing from A to Z. But there was a challenge to impartiality that should be addressed about now. There's some disclosures about ex parte communications. There's some things that your attorney should be. I'll come up and speak when I'm done, but it may be a good time to reach out because we sure had problems last time.
okay.
I think what Mr. Dix is, he's reading the, on the order item of the proceeding, it uses the word applicant. In this case,
It's strictly under appeals. This listed under appeals.
The applicant would be Mr. Dix.
well, exactly, this is his appeal, so he's the applicant for the appeal, so you can,
I'm the appellate. It's listed separate. I'm the appellate, not the applicant.
Yeah, okay, that was my understanding of land development code. He
I'm not the applicant.
is applying for the appeal. He's the,
I understand that. I agree with you.
very well. Okay, so Mr. Dix, please go ahead and come up and present your application here.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I guess a point of order before my time starts real quick then. Connie, you delivered me email, or your staff did, the order of business. Can you help us lay our hands for appeals? Do you remember sending that to me?
Yes.
Okay, because from my understanding, this starts pro se. It starts up from the beginning. That means the applicant that applied here tonight to have a land use site plan and an amendment is to present his plan. And then from there, the town should be giving their statements about whether they felt like it was concurrent or anything like that. From that point, the appellant comes up and states why he is against it. There's been no evidence presented in this entire plan to date for me to go against. So the evidence has to start with the applicant. Now, if there's a misunderstanding about it, I'll proceed however I'm directed to proceed, but I object to the order of business that's taking place now.
Okay, and I think that's what Mr. Lander said, that's my interpretation of it as well, so go ahead and proceed.
Okay, so we're beyond the objection. Now, I am rising to a cause of impartiality, and I'm asking the mayor to step down out of the meeting and allow the remaining council members, which will be a quorum, to proceed. There has been an ethics violation filed against him. The last proceeding was supposed to be a held like a trial. He barred public input, and he has not disclosed, and I've asked, and I would like to stop the ex parte communications be disclosed at this point, because evidence testimony is being presented, and you are required to disclose what conversations you have in this manner with the applicant. And I would like that to be disclosed before we continue and have it settled of whether you believe yourself. And she has a copy of the complaint as well as the request. I'd ask you to decide on that, or whether you're going to be in the meeting or being impartial. My view, which I have already put in the record testimony, is that you were addressed by the board to go out and resolve or attempt to mediate this issue, which I understand you did go out and mediate. So therefore, when you come back, I do not believe you'd be in a position where you say you're unbiased. You spent lots of time. What you spent time going back should come back to these three remaining members to decide. And with that ex parte communication, I would like the explanation of reportedly eating at Charlie's restaurant with them since you were mayor just before the last meeting. But do want to go on record that the last meeting we were railroaded. It's like that the story where you come in and you get arrested by the sheriff and he gets to the jailhouse and he puts on his judge's robe. That's exactly what's happening tonight. And I believe you're condescending to Miss Terry last time. She had some things written down, and I believe you really cut her short. So I think there was an overbearance of steering the meeting. There was an absolute deliberate attempt to not allow the public to speak. And so therefore, I would ask you to excuse yourself from the meeting tonight.
Okay.
I didn't want to interrupt Mr. Dix when he was talking. I think step A is Mr. Dix approaching the lectern as if there is an order of proceeding that we have to get to, and your comments are part of that. The first order of proceeding is for the board or council to determine whether or not it has jurisdiction over this matter. So following, I think the first thing that has to happen is the board acknowledge that it has jurisdiction over this matter.
Is that by formal vote? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we need a motion to acknowledge whether.
I don't even know what's going on.
It's business.
I mean, y'all get technical to it, y'all asking me, should I be involved in it? I don't know until somebody explains something to me.
So this is the appeal by Mr. Dix of the, and again, just to use the general term, the collective site plan and their approval that was entered at the, I believe it was December 16th meeting, which was the finality of all the public hearings and
I remember
those
this.
things. And so Mr. Dix has filed an appeal saying he disagrees with how that was done and the process that it was done by and the final order that was entered. So that's where we're at, having an appeal of that decision. So the first thing that has to happen is the board has to determine whether or not they have jurisdiction over the matter. Meaning, do you have the authority to rule whether or not that the final order should stand or should fall to the appeal filed on the
So we should know all this legal term?
This should all happen last time. This should have took place at last meeting. Well, I was denied all.
Here's what we need to do. That's why I didn't interrupt you a while ago. Let's have one person speak at a time without extemporaneous. This is sort of my time to explain to Mr. Coon. The first thing that has to happen tonight is for this board to determine whether or not they have the jurisdiction to hear this matter.
Just to hear the matter?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're just following, we're gonna follow.
Okay, so floor's open for a motion on whether or not we acknowledge that we have jurisdiction to hear this matter.
Yeah, I make a motion, we have knowledge about the jurisdiction here to matter, yeah.
A second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed say nay.
The second item on the order of proceedings is that the members of the board or council shall, if necessary, state whether or not they have a conflict of interest or must otherwise disqualify themselves from hearing the case. This will be a time that if anyone believes that they have a conflict of interest or must otherwise identify yourself from, or disqualify yourself, rather, from hearing the case.
I'm good.
And just to be open, based on the ethics complaint that was submitted, what, I guess, do you recommend that I step down, or I believe I'm impartial, but
That's your decision to make, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Dix obviously has filed a complaint saying that you're not impartial. I'm not, haven't been privy to whatever conversations have gone on between any member of this council and the original applicant. And again, I'm using the term collective as a, these folks have names, but you should use it as a collective. So I'm not privy to it. So if anybody thinks that they have a disqualification, in general, you're in a town of how many residents?
625.
yeah, less than 650.
625, and you all live in the town, obviously, and you interact with residents, you talk to the residents about things that are going on. So you have to make a determination on your own as to your conversations with residents, including the collective, the people of the collective, about all of these issues as this has gone on for the last few years, rises to the level that you think it needs to disqualify yourself. If you do, then you should. If you don't, then you shouldn't. With the caveat to you, Mr. Mayor, that since Mr. Dix has filed an ethics complaint against you in the state of Florida, that will be subject to their potential investigation into it. And so, if you feel like that there's nothing that you've done that is beyond the bounds of ethics other than representing your constituents, don't step down. If you do, then even if it's in good intentions, or even if it's to preserve the appearance of partiality, that's a decision for you to make based on your own interaction.
When you're saying step down, are you referring to step from this meeting versus step down from mayor?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, for the proceedings, for the.
And I knew that, I just wanted on record. And then second, you said something, Mr. Dix, about Shirley's. Are you saying there was a meeting?
No, y'all are supposed to disclose that parte, which would be next, I guess.
Go ahead, Mrs.
I think at previous meetings that we've had, when we were discussing the collective, Ms. Terry disclosed and Mr. Kuhn disclosed that they have had conversations with the owners of the collective, so.
I mean, I think all of us probably have. So does anybody feel they need to step down?
No, I don't.
I want on record that he was cut off when he tried to bring up his points last time, and that's when he left the room, the building.
Yeah.
And I personally thought that was unfair.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he was given his 3 minutes. Additionally, I gave him an extension. He tried to call off the audience.
And then this was at a separate...
The 3 minutes was not
separate
an
time.
open hearing. There's going to be some stuff you're going to get educated on, but you deny public input. The beginning of the meeting is not in a quasi-judicial hearing, and things matter. And, but I will want specifics on the ex parte communications. That's any, so that will be every time that you have spoken with them to what degrees. And please, if you don't mind, deny or admit or discuss Shirley's, because that was right before our last meeting.
Okay, so
But I will turn this back to Attorney.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Members of the board or council shall disclose and place on the record any ex parte communication relating to the matter before the board or council. So that's the next item to address.
Yeah, I mean,
And I'll expound on that just briefly. Ex parte communications obviously means communications outside of the meeting setting. And my opinion would be that ex parte communications as it relates to this particular process that we're in would mean ex parte communications relating to specifically this appeal, promise to make it all go away, or promise not to make it all go away, things that are specifically related to this appeal. Again, I think it's already been put on record by everyone in here, that they've spoken to members of the collective about this process throughout the last few years. And so the ex parte that I would expect that members of the council are considering is ex parte communication related to this current event that we're in, this appeal and the presentation.
That would include the application, not the appeal.
That's your opinion.
Well, I'm asking is for the application.
Well,
because I was denied that they did not state ex parte communications in the last quasi-judicial hearing as required. And so the board didn't do it, so I'm wanting to go on record, since I was denied that in the first meeting, that I'd like to have it now. And that will be related to the appeal, specifically Shirley's Restaurant and what that was about.
Okay.
And that he needs to disclose if he did or did not mediate with these people.
okay, well, thank you, we'll get there.
Deny that,
Well,
it's fine.
yes, well, let's let Mr. Mayor finish going.
I think I've done it.
Okay.
I've conveyed my, position.
Okay. Any ex parte communication, since the appeal has been made?
From the beginning,
That,
that ethics is going to be watching
Right,
this. You
yes.
better answer it right.
Yeah, well,
and that's it.
Yep, you're live.
let's stop. I understand we're live and making a record and all those things are true. But this is not a debate process where I would expect either side, either Mr. Dix or the council, to engage in sort of a constant back and forth. This is a process. You go through the order of the proceeding, you respond to the order of proceeding, you move on to the next order of proceeding. If either side does not agree with it or has an issue with it, then there's certainly remedies available to either side afterwards. But I would not advise that we devolve into a ongoing debate back and forth. And certainly, Mr. Dix doesn't have the authority to demand that it get that way. I mean, there seems to be this lot of questioning to you. And certainly, and I would also say the same thing, that you shouldn't treat Mr. Dix that way. Don't demand that he, respond to things or take positions or defend positions, et cetera. Just move through the process, hear his evidence, answer the questions under the order of proceeding, and make a decision, and then we'll proceed from there.
Okay, so as far as the ex parte communication, we just say those verbally? Okay. Yeah, so since the appeal, I spoke to Ruben Nellis. I said, hey, there's an appeal. They said, okay, what do we do? I said, hey, if you want to submit some form of a rebuttal, you can do that. You have the opportunity, and they will have the opportunity to go and do something. There were no promises, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's my ex parte disclosure. If anyone else has one to make.
I'd like to object.
No, wait. Let's see if anyone else has any to make, and then if not, yes.
being naive, is it his responsibility to inform them of the appeal? Because I don't have a clue. How did y'all receive notice, or what would be the formal way for the collected gentlemen, Reuben and Alex, to receive notice of his appeal?
I don't know if the clerk contacted them or if it was the mayor. Again, I don't think there's anything in and of itself surprising or untoward about anyone from the council or the clerk letting the folks from collected know that it was.
I'm just using it at the educational time, because we're all, or at least I'm learning, I'm definitely learning.
Is it okay now to put objection in the record? Okay, I'd like to object to the response given. The order item number 3 says members shall disclose, place record any ex parte communications. I believe that the town's attorney has incorrectly identified that period of time as from the appeal. This appeal isn't a review because you're reviewing your own decision. The review says you start at the beginning, not at the appeal. So ex parte communications, in my opinion, and what I've asked from you here tonight, would be specific communications that came from the beginning, because this hearing tonight is to be heard from the beginning. And if he does not want to respond, then I will take that as a refusal to answer. But I do believe that there's been ex parte communication revealed here tonight that you have not responded to or dispelled, and yet you have still not disclosed whether you did or did not go to mediation with applicants. And I want that in the record, or either refusal to respond in the record.
Right.
And so we can move on.
Yeah.
Is that all you want to say?
Right, yeah, and I'll just say this, for the sake of everyone watching and the residents of the town of Fort White. I don't know where you're getting your information from about Shirley's.
Were you there?
But let me finish. I have never been any place named Shirley's with Reuben and Alex. I'm not saying that to answer you. I'm saying that in case anyone watching and the residents of the town of Fort White are wondering. Just so that they know, excuse me, please. Just so that they know that that's not how I compose and I conduct myself. There was a time I was at Shirley's. There were 2 other Latin gentlemen and another gentleman that I am friends with, and I believe a sibling of mine. I don't know what you heard or who told you what, or if they thought they looked like these 2 gentlemen, but that was not the case. Does that answer that question for you?
Absolutely, yeah, that's all I.
Okay, thank you. 1 second. For you, Mr. Lannick, at this point, does he actually need to get to his actual?
The next item is the introduction of petition by the chair, the board of council. So
Thank you. Yes.
So here's a 4 million out. So he's gonna,
Yes. Okay. All right. So go ahead. So Mr. Dix has submitted evidence supporting the petition for an appellate review for the site plan. You are recognized. Go ahead. You can make your presentation.
Okay, I'd like to give each of you, pass if you don't mind. I should not be here first. Let's go back and read this. The plan has never been presented by the applicant. Is that not what's supposed to happen next? The applicant present the plan, it's to be heard from the beginning, per se.
Mr. Dix, you said that a time or 2.
It's in the code.
Again, I'm being very polite to you, I'm not interrupting you, I'm not going to. But I'm not going to debate you. I'm saying, you put on your case, if you believe that the town is putting on this part of it incorrectly, you've made that abundantly clear. But I'm not going to keep debating it.
Well, I'm going to object on page 13, 10.07.2 of the Land Development Code, item 5, after introduction of petition of the chair, should be presentation by the applicant. The applicant would be the collective, not me. So I should be hearing the applicant's presentation to know what he's actually doing as a resident. I have no idea what he's doing because he's never presented it. And so I object that number 6 should be presentation by town staff, in which I have asked them to declare whether the site plan was complete or not. I'm supposed to be afforded that. I am not to speak until number 8, rebuttal, 7, affected parties. So I object to having to present before the site plan is even presented. So I am asking the chairman to follow the order of the Land Development Code of this meeting and start with number 5, presentation by the applicant.
Yes, Mr. Dix. Please proceed. We've been through this. We have a difference of opinion and as to interpretation, so.
It's subject to judicial review.
Please present
So
your application.
So the applicant, are they refusing? They're the ones that are supposed to be burden of the proof. I mean, if we need to, we can go back in and look at these codes.
Mr. Dix, Mr. Dix, Mr. Dix.
Okay, we're going in, all right. I'm being forced to move forward. Against, in duress, I'm being forced to move forward with my case against the order that is published in the Land Development Code. And I object, but I will proceed in order to keep the meeting going.
Thank you.
Okay. If we want to move right on to it, then the site development plan. I determined that you have never received the site development plan from what I've seen, that you have a site, what is it called before that, a review, if you don't mind me? It's not a site plan, it's right there, a concept review. You have in front of you the first 2.5 pages are items that are supposed to be in this site plan. This is straight out of the Land Development Code. It starts off with a legal description and ends about 30 items later with existing vegetation. And I have asked to see those documents. You have approved the site plan without any evidence of these items being presented to you or considered. And so I'm asking the town to provide me with a copy of the site plan with these items on it. And if they are unable, I ask for the town right now to declare the site plan is incomplete.
Okay.
So I ask you to make that determination of whether it's
Please, yes, that determination has been made when we approved it at the previous meeting. Please continue with your.
Okay, so then I would like copies of it, clerk. Can you go ahead and, if you don't mind, hand me the dialogue, the written dialogue that he wrote of how his operation was going to be cohesive with adjacent properties. That is a required submittal. Do you have that for me?
Not at this moment.
Does the town have it? Well, it's the applicant's required to be the one here providing the burden of proof. If we can back up with that, the applicant should have it themselves.
Please proceed.
So you were unwilling to present the documents?
Did you could have requested it prior?
I did request it prior. You have a public records request, sir.
Okay, very well. Please proceed.
And you did not present it. Okay, so we'll take it at this point that the...
Go ahead, Mr. Go ahead.
So we'll take it at this point that the board has refused to take a determination of whether the site plan is complete and will not present me requested items that are on it. Is that correct? And we'll move on.
That is your opinion. Please proceed.
My opinion. I'm asking for them. Can I have them now, please? Can I have the contours, the elevations? Do we have a scaled site plan with the location? Where's the site plan with the engineer's seal on it? I'm asking for those documents because I do not believe the site plan is complete. Okay. I will take it note of the record that I've been refused those documents. And then just from there, the applicant requests the council deem that the plan be submitted incomplete. In addition, it is not signed by a sealed professional engineer. The applicant requests the denial of site plan 23-1 based on an incomplete submittal. Should the board fail to deem it incomplete, I object to the approval based on part of the following deficiencies. And all of this should be in the record. It was evidence, and I would assume that the board has read it. There's a lot taken. Lack of adequate on-site parking. Ordinance 2024-01 requires 2 on-site parking spaces per food truck. The site plan does not meet that minimum, and the ordinance does not provide for any variance. I attest that you cannot pass a site plan for a food truck ordinance without 2 spots per truck. There is no place in there to give a variance. For established eating establishments, the Land Development Code requires 8 spaces for less than 23 seats, 1 space for 3 seats for everything over 23. Applicant's site plan does not identify the number of seats, nor does the current approval limit them. I'd ask the board how they determine the recommended parking when they have no idea of how many people are attending because it's absent from the site plan. Outside of the requirements of 2024-01, the parking deferral should not be available. There are not any currently permitted parking lots in the area, and no neighborhood parking lots are shown on the site plan. The only way you can give a deferral is for a shared parking lot, and that's a description, a lot. There are no lots on there. Parking alongside 27 is shown on the plan, but it shouldn't. It's outside of the site plan's boundary. It should not show parking on 27. No consideration of that space should be granted, as it's not been determined to be designated parking by the Florida Department of Transportation, neither the town. The DOT insists that they have leases in place. That is the shoulder of a road for emergency parking only. The signs are telling you no emergency parking at the corners. There is no cross painting for parking spaces. DOT recognizes that is the edge of the right-of-way. It's not parking, folks. So I do not believe that there's any way that this board can give a variance of the 2 parking, whether it be by the ordinance that it's bound by or in lines with a variance. I do not believe it applies. And the proposed parking, the road right-of-way along Bryant cannot substitute for on-site parking as it's not a shared parking lot. So Bryant doesn't do that either. Tax parcel 14403-000 to the east cannot be considered as shared parking. It's a vacant site and we need a site plan approval to be used as a parking lot. Any use that changes the need for parking requires a site plan approval, and there is none, so that can't be it. I further request denial of the proposed site plan based on lack of evidence of sewage disposal facilities being in place to hook up to the principal use of sewer. This is a requirement with no provision for a variance. You can find it in section 606E-1. So all primary use units there must be hooked to sewer according to the variance. And I do not have any information on that because there are no utilities within the site plan. The site plan isn't correct. It isn't a site plan. I request site code denial on the site plan based on the absence of a landscape plan described in the code. There is no landscape plan provided in your site plan. I request denial of the site plan based on the absence of a statement of compatibility between residential districts and commercial districts. He's having to get a special permit because my house is next door to it. The very document that he's supposed to be describing how he's mitigating those circumstances is absent from these hearings, but yet you're declaring the site plan correct. Without those documents, how have you effectively waived what as a citizen we're entitled to? And I request now site plan based on the absence of interstitial spaces not being constructed in accordance with 6.05.02F. There is a section in there that talks about the walkways that connect. There's not in the site plan, it's not been addressed, and the certain plan doesn't meet it. I also request a denial of the site plan due to no submission of construction materials and the recent construction of an office with exterior materials that are forbidden by the code. 6.05.02 does not allow metal exteriors. So there's projects going on right now. There is no material list. There's no anything that is required by all these documents to have been in that site plan. They're absent. And I recommend or ask that you deny the site plan based on its incompleteness and the fact that it does not have enough internal parking as mandated by both the ordinance and the comp plan.
Thank you, Mr. Dix. All right, we'll proceed. Presentation. Thank you, Mr. Dix. Presentation by the town staff. Mr. Burkini, I think you had one thing to say, and then did you have something to say earlier? Forgot.
I was just going to address the public records request.
Oh, yes.
I had emailed Mr. Dix and asked, he had requested items, and I had emailed him and asked him if he still needed those documents and had asked that,
You'll get another chance.
Well, I'd like to respond to verify, validate what she's saying.
Okay, I'll give you a chance. You'll get a chance.
I had emailed him back and asked him, I had said that it would be, for what he was asking for, it would be considerable time consuming, and copies we would need to charge for the research time and the copies. And I emailed him on more than one occasion, and I copied our attorney as well, and his response was that he was good. To
That wasn't my
paraphrase.
response.
To paraphrase.
You'll get a chance. I want to allow Mr. Lander, do you have anything to say before we move on to if the gentleman from the collective, if they have anything they would like to say?
The council has the numerous and voluminous records relating to this project with the collective. They've all been on the record. We've had numerous public hearings. We've actually went through this process with the gentleman from the collective as part of the judicial hearing. Goodness, almost a year ago, maybe. So the position of our planner is that the final order that was entered by the council is sufficient based on the information and evidence that was presented at numerous public hearings that we had. And I can't recall if Mr. Dix was at any of those or not. I don't recall. But we've had numerous public hearings about it. We've had numerous meetings about it. All of those documents and minutes are in the record. Our planner has looked over this extensively. He's considered the appeal that Mr. Dix has filed. He believes that anything that is not in the word-for-word language of the LDC is a reasonable interpretation that the town council can make in moving through this process, and that the order that was entered is sufficient. And that's our, that's our report.
Okay. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, from the, anything you want to? Okay, very well. And okay, so go ahead, Mr. Dix, if you rebuttal, Mr. Rebuttal.
I would like to just rebuttal, and I'd say that I've worked, very well with Connie at the county, whether it be here, just wherever role she's been in over the years. And I did use the word as the pause. I went down here immediately after that meeting and turned in my records request. Everything that I asked for, Connie insinuated, and correct me if I'm wrong, she doesn't know of its existence. That basically I was led to believe that the site plan and the stuff that was on the agenda for last meeting was the only thing that existed. That public records request stayed open for weeks. We closed it at the 20th day as far as putting a pause. I no longer could have those evidence. I needed those documents to submit my evidence within 20 days. They were not withdrawn before that 20 days was up. And that email public record, so at this point, Connie, because I have a heart for it, I don't want to break her neck for stuff that I can't use at this point. The word was pause. And so I've been in this office verbally more than one time, asking the land development regulator has not attended either of them. He is supposed to issue a certificate where he has stated, and it's in this book, that he's found that it's met. I have asked for that certificate. That certificate has not been done. So you as the board, and I will put you on notice, should be evidenced by a certificate by your land development coordinator that states this is the record. And I do not believe it exists. All of this stuff that they're meeting is because there's never been a site plan submitted in accordance with these documents. There's been conceptual plans, tests that's been dropped around, and y'all have had meetings and this and that. but I do not believe there's ever been a submission that meets the site plan. I've given you the copy of it. It's straight out of the book. And I will go back there to refute something that the attorney said. Review of site plans. If one stays idle for more than 6 months, it's 10.02.05. If more than 6 months eclipse, the applicant must reapply for site plan reviews. Site plan reviews cannot stay open. If it's 6 months after the original application, he has to keep submitting. So what happened prior to 6 months from now has nothing to do with today. And this hearing is from the beginning. I don't know of a hearing that's ever been placed where the site plan as required has been submitted. And I just think that citizens have a right to review the documents that these ordinances require. And I do not believe you have the evidence. And I believe the regulations are requiring you to provide site parking. There has been no presentation by the applicant. I object to that. And there's been no presentation by the land development coordinator, and I object to that. So I would ask that you table this meeting so the land development regulator can come in and speak, and these documents that are related to this application can be produced. So if anything else, I'd say table the meeting so the documents can be produced for the public to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Your effect. Rebuttal by staff, or Mr. McKean, have anything to say, or Mr. Matt?
I do. I think that the council should, you made a request to table this. I think that before you move forward, that you should address Mr. Dick's request to table. It's his hearing, so I think, he has a right to ask for it, be granted or not granted. I'm just saying that I think it's appropriate to address it before we move to the next item in the presentation.
Okay, before we do that, anybody have any questions about specifically tabling it, or we can ask the attorney right here before we, if not?
Listen, all this talk is way over my head. But I wouldn't mind tabling it, so I can catch up what's going on. Exactly.
So okay.
I know kind of what's going on, but I don't know exactly what's happening.
Okay, the floor is open for a motion if you want to table this.
Now, if we table it, it's got to be at the next meeting, is that what you said before?
Yeah.
So everybody will be ready by the next meeting?
The only thing you could do, and I'm trying to remember my Robert's Rules of Order, anyone in here's I was a 4-H guy and an FFA guy. Yeah, if you table it, you got to bring it back up, and then at the next meeting, you either have to put it back on or vote to set it at a time after that, I believe. So it'd have to come back at the next meeting, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be heard at the next meeting. You would either have to, one, hear it, or two, and I would suggest, to be fair to everyone, have an agreement already in place to say, okay, we're going to bring it back up, but we're going to set it for that day. But it has to come back on the agenda. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Mr. Dick?
Kind of.
Yeah, it'd be advisable.
I'll make a motion, we table it to the next meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Okay, all opposed say nay. Nay? Okay, so, what was that?
What was the
3.5?
vote?
I'm fine with opening the table on the next time.
What was the vote, Ms. Mayor?
3-1.
Okay, one nay.
Mayor,
So, yes, go ahead.
I'm asking, should we have a workshop on this before the next meeting and talk about some of this, or we don't need it, or?
Before I answer.
If you're gonna table this, then this end, I don't get a rebuttal.
Well, if we're tabling it, we're stopping it for tonight. And we can stop right now. Now, there are, there's no one interrupting. Let me finish. Don't mind. So there's two parts to this, right? If you're tabling it, then we're done talking about it. We're going to go on to the next item on our regular agenda. So the answer to your question would be yes, you would not get to do anything else back because we're done for tonight. There are two appeals here. There's one to the special use permit and there's another site plan. So before we even go anywhere else, was your request, and I'm not going to speak for you, was your request that we table the vote?
We want them done separately and heard separately, and there may be some advantage to presenting some of my arguments so that if there's questions that people can get with you. So I would like to at least introduce my objections on the second, but I do want them heard separately.
I know you want them heard separately, they're going to be.
But I'm fine with it being tabled.
That's what I'm saying, is
after they open it. Yeah.
I don't want to deny anyone on your side in due process. My point is, if you're in agreement to table it all, then
I haven't exposed what the council people don't understand yet. We just fixed that in the first one of areas they may feel they need to brush up on the code. And I believe I'm at least, since I did not get any right to present in the first one, I would at least like for them to know what my objections will be when we pick back up. That would be my request.
So you're, at this point, you're just asking to,
please present my arguments.
almost on your second appeal?
On the special use permit.
Special use. You got it right there. I guess what you guys just voted on was tabling the site plan.
Right. So two questions. For Mr. Lander, would it, in your opinion, be inappropriate to proceed with this appeal with the information that is already publicly available and as it is for the site plan?
I paid for the appeal.
Ask me a question.
Yes. Would it be, in your opinion, well, I mean, we voted, but would it be inappropriate, in your opinion, to continue, or to have continued with the appeal for the site plan as currently, as we sit here tonight? Would that have been inappropriate somehow in your opinion?
From the one that we just voted to?
Correct.
Well, sure, it would. Yes, it would. I mean, the council has voted to table that appeal.
Prior, were there anything inappropriate about it before the vote to have continued it, in your opinion?
I don't think there's anything inappropriate about continuing it. No. If you have a motion to continue it, you heard it, you voted on it, and so it's continued.
Right, right. Well, I mean, continue it as in, had we heard it and made a determination with the information that we had, would that have been inappropriate? Was there any sort of impropriety? Was there any sort of, anything in your opinion?
No. Are you asking me, were we in, I'm not sure.
So I guess, let me
here's what I don't want to do. Here's what I don't want to do. This appeal stopped right now. It's done. My advice is we quit talking about it because it's done for tonight.
I'll take your advice.
Thank you.
For Mr. Dix, for your second appeal, so you have the appeal, you hear the appeal, are you going to request to table it? Are you requesting to table it? Or?
No.
Okay.
It's the open as item of business, I would think. Your attorney got it on that.
Okay. Just before we go any further, he was wanting to speak, and I don't think we should tell him not to. I know we tabled it, but he wanted to speak even though we tabled it.
Yeah. It's been tabled now, and then again, no lack of due process in here, but we've stopped this process. His time to speak will still be supported and it's taken back up. Right now, their plan, their site plan, especially, it's all approved, right? So this doesn't affect what happens to them right now. If this thing comes back and we continue this, this, then the collective folks will have an opportunity to speak. But right now, we're stopped with this particular appeal.
Okay. Moving on to the, yeah, moving on to the appeal for the special use permit. We're having another quasi-judicial proceeding on that. First and foremost, to follow the order here, the Board or Council shall determine whether it has jurisdiction over the matter. So, floor is open for a motion on whether or not the Town Council feels that we have jurisdiction over this separate special use permit appeal.
I think he has the right to present, if that's what your question is.
Yeah. No, so
Do we have
to open-
jurisdiction of it?
Yes.
Yeah, so to open the, so I need a motion, so to open the quasi-judicial proceeding, there are these items we have to go through in order to open it and get to him being able to make his case. So the floor is open for a motion.
What
We
are
as
we
the
making a
council,
motion for?
Just that
Hear this.
the council has a jurisdiction to hear it.
I'll make a motion that the council has jurisdiction to hear the second part
is there a second?
of his appeal.
Yes.
Second, okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Very well, okay, so on to the second item. Members of the board or council shall, if necessary, state whether they have a conflict of interest or must otherwise disqualify themselves from hearing the case. Do any members of the council feel they have a conflict of interest or must otherwise disqualify themselves from hearing the case? Okay. And members of the board or council shall disclose and place on the record any ex parte communications relating to the matter before the board or council. Anyone have anything to bring up? Okay, very well. Mine is the same as the last one.
You need to read this.
We had discussed, yeah. We had discussed that there was an appeal. I let them know they had a right to submit anything they wanted to submit. That's my disclosure. Okay, now, all right, I will introduce here in the quasi-judicial proceeding the evidence that Mr. Dix has submitted supporting the petition for appellate review of the special use permit. Mr. Dix, if you would please come up and make your presentation to the council.
I would like to start by objecting that item number 5 of the order of my business would be presentation for the applicant, and ask the applicant to present his application at this time before I am, before I have to speak as affected party.
All right, yeah, so please proceed. We have a difference of opinion how we read the code.
So I would like to go on record objecting by the lack of the town requiring the applicant to present their application. We'll refer back to the code. It is the applicant that is totally responsible for presenting their case and ensuring that the documentation is there. And so I'm asking one more time for the applicant to come. If not, I would ask that we move on to number 6 by the presentation of the matter by the town staff. That would be the next order of business. So I'd ask that they follow the rules in the code and the town staff present their findings.
Okay, please proceed with your.
Does that take it the town refuses to present the findings at this time?
We will abide by the rules, which are.
I'm stating the rules on section 10.07.03, and be advised that you are under review. Item number 5 and 6 have been skipped, and I object to that. Please put my objection on there. All right, so as you can see how this is going, past each of you. I would like to make a note that my original notes that I submitted at the zoning board hearing, as well as the evidence submitted with the appeal, will be part of this record, and I have asked and hope that you've read it. I do maintain every objection that's found in that record, but to review and save time, this has to do with special use permit. The requirement says, and I shouldn't be having to present this, I'm the appellate, that they are close enough to the residential district in which they must get a special use permit to do anything in a commercial zone property. That I do want to go on the record that I do believe I was denied the benefits of quasi-judicial hearing during that December 16th zoning board. I was not allowed to present evidence during the hearing or cross-examine. There was no presentation by the applicant, and so I do want those to go on record. The final order states the applicant submitted a site plan. I attest that there is no evidence a site plan that meets the requirements of 10.02.08 was never submitted and known to exist. So I do wish to go on record with the findings and object that the site plan was submitted. Applicant objects to the following accessory uses being added as Exhibit A, as there is no authority provided with the code or the Land Development Code to do so. These uses are expressly prohibited by 3.06.03 of the Land Development Code. As applicant, I own commercial zone property within a stone's throw 600 feet of this. I am forced to abide by these restrictions. I've owned it for 7 years. I have had the town enforce their codes against me for an advertising truck, a couple little things like that. I immediately complied. I was denied the right to move my sign off of my UPS 90 location. It's a matter of the record here. I paid my fee. The council would have let me put the sign, but they did not have a variance that allowed the square footage. So the bottom line, I was denied the right to move my own sign because there was no variance provided in these same regulations. So I, as a commercial property owner, have been abiding by these, and I am entitled to equal protection under the law, and that's what we're demanding here today. The Land Development Code does not provide for a farmer's market, meeting and picnic space, exercise space, karaoke, open mic, movies, except explicitly states they must be an inside soundproof building, which is not what your requirement made. Meetings, workshops, and seminars. Those are all things that have been put into a special use permit in which there is no provision to grant those rights whatsoever, and put in a manner where it is part of they do not have to apply. So I object to those, or would either ask the town to show me in the regulations where they're allowed to do it. He's granting uses that are not in the code. They're not there. So applicant objects to the issuance of this permit without the required statement regarding compatibility with the residential neighbors and factors that were incorporated to promote compatibility. So the document that I should have been able to have access to in the site plan that I maintain has never been turned in needs to be used to how are they making compatible. So I go back, the site plan is incomplete, therefore the special permit cannot be approved. Also, the applicant objects to allowances of activities that produce noise outside, which is in conflict with the Land Development Code. All activities that produce noise are required to be in a soundproof building in commercial general. The allowance of outdoor movies is specifically in conflict, and karaoke would be a prohibited use by definition 3.06.03. The applicant believes Ordinance 2024.01 is in conflict with land development regulations regarding that allowance. I further would like to point to an objection to 70 decibels after 6 o'clock being put in there. Number one, that it insinuates that more than 70 is okay before 6. I have submitted to this board an FDLE study that they hired done that says anything above 65 decibels in a commercial general is unacceptable at any time. And you're cutting it off at 70 after 6. They further say that any sound intruding in a residential district above 55 decibels would be incorrect at any time. So I ask that you either submit the studies that were done, but at least this document, in my understanding, was produced so the deputies in the state of Florida would know when to arrest people for violating them. And I made that part of the record, that your record of 70 decibels is in excess of the FDLE study. And also, I do object to the numeral decibel being placed in that at all, as the ordinance nowhere is cited what decibel levels. You're defining the ordinance by putting a decibel level. So I do object to that as well. And so I would ask that you deny the special use permit, and specifically ask that you do not grant uses that you have no authority to grant.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Anyone, Mr. Keen or Mr. Lander, anything to say? Your sponsor?
Again, our town planner reviewed the appeal documents and attachments that was submitted by Mr. Dix. It's his opinion, based on a review of those documents, or review of the record that the council has, and the hearings that were held, that again, the special use permit was permissible. That anything that is not specifically defined in the code is a reasonable interpretation. What? Reasonable interpretation of the uses on this particular property, and that again, the final order that was entered is appropriate, and so that's our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Lander. You gentlemen, y'all can go ahead and just state your name, and you can give your presentation on this.
My name is Alexander Vega. I'm the co-owner of the Collective Food Yard and Garden. And as you know, we have been dealing with this since 2022, when we bought the property in November. We just bought this property. I submitted a site plan because the code requires that any commercial use within 100 foot requires a site plan. I submitted that in September of 2023. That was on the record. We had a workshop here to discuss that same site plan. And well, we didn't have a workshop, we had a meeting in December. We were supposed to have a workshop, that workshop never happened. The ordinance was changed, and we've been going back and forth through the whole process of this for over almost 2 years now. But we're not gonna go into all the details. I just kind of want to briefly discuss something that he mentioned about the special use, because that's the only thing we're talking about now is the special use permit. The ordinance does state that there are accessory uses permitted on a food truck park, and those include karaoke. Then it goes on to state that they are special uses that may be granted, which is what you did in the December meeting. You granted those special uses. So yeah, he is correct that just give me 1 second, I'm sorry guys. Section D15 from the ordinance 2022 states that accessory uses may be permitted. Accessory uses may include farmers market, excepting a flea market, meeting and picnic spaces, exercise spaces, karaoke, and music. All other uses not specifically specified herein shall be considered a special event, which will require a temporary use permit. So if his argument is that we can't have karaoke, but your ordinance states that we can have karaoke, or we can have music. Furthermore, your land development code has a performance standard for noise, which measures the noise level equivalent to the same hour of traffic. That noise decibel reading is 80 decibels. Your ordinance is, well, actually, your special use, or the conditions of the special use, was that I have less than that, to 60. So I think that you guys are putting in an extra layer of conditions on me that are not required in your land development code, and I don't object to that. So that's the only thing I have to say about the special use permit. Again, the special use is just for any business conducting, any commercial business within 100 foot of a residence. That's it.
Good. Thank you.
Right.
We got one second. Yeah, we got rebuttal by the applicant. Go ahead.
Two different things there. He responded to the ordinance. The ordinance stands alone from the land development code. Whichever one is more restrictive applies. The ordinance requires 2 parking spaces. The ordinance may say karaoke, but the land development code does not. So therefore, I went on record saying that your ordinance violates your land development code, in my opinion, because it starts placing noisy stuff outdoor, whereas the uses in commercial general, they're all indoors. So I say that the code violates, but the code of ordinances will stand alone, and you know, with them, it is what it is. But there was one other thing, Mr. Lowell Garrett, I would like to go on record that he has not provided any direct testimony in either of these hearings. I'd like to provide that we have seen no documentation of these approvals. I would also like to put on record that I think he may have conveyed that maybe you were given some legal advice from a land planner of whether you can say similar, and that was one thing I was going to do, is go back to say that there was something said by your attorney here tonight about interpretation. In the commercial zoning, it says if it's a use that's not explicitly listed, it's prohibited. And that's why words matter. And I do want to reach back up when me and Mr. Vega had our conversation at the Fence Pleasantly after the last 16th meeting. He didn't realize or whichever one, I don't know who's who, but whichever one we're talking to, I don't think he realized the ordinance was written and passed the other day where karaoke was allowed, one time a month, and then there was a comma. Open mic and all of those others are allowed 7 days a week. I was under the impression this board had no idea that open mic, all this stuff was a 7-day-a-week thing. It matters on how you write the sentences. If you look at what's passed and the exhibit, you only limited karaoke to the number of days a week. Everything else is 7 days a week. I don't think the board understood that, and I had a chance to point that out at the zoning meeting. You might would have said, you know what, we did want all these only one time a month, or however it is, but the way that it was written, there's a comma in the wrong place, open mic and all those other uses that aren't provided in the ordinance. And I go back, if you have to read your code, it says if it's not specifically listed, it's prohibited. Open mic is not a specifically listed use in commercial general, and therefore it's prohibited, is my take. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hicks. Rebuttal by town staff, Mrs. Burkeen or Mr. Langer, anything else to say?
No, I would just say that Mr. Garrett's participation has been through the process and providing the documentation, the final orders, all of the documentation. So again, we're not relitigating it from the standpoint of him needing to be here and
Object.
and go through these things.
Object.
His testimony is on the record, through the records that we have, that are public records that exist and have existed throughout, all of this.
Okay,
Put my objection on record.
First is their turn. Gentlemen, anything? Come up and.
Again, I want to go ahead and state that the ordinance and your land development code do allow for these uses. And now, so if it's not listed, that's why when this conversation started 2 years ago, I was asked to present all plausible events that I'd be having at the collective. I've never had a movie night, but if I ever wanted to do something like that, go ahead and list all the items. It would be up to the council to decide whether to approve those uses or not. So the conditions on my special uses included items that were not in the ordinance. So those are additional conditions that you guys granted me or allowed me. I don't think that's out of your jurisdiction to do that. I think that's part of the whole process. When you submit a site plan or a special use permit, what do you want to do here? We would grant you these or we will not grant you this. And again, he's new to this whole thing. He just got here. We've been doing this for a very long time. And all the information is public records. I think everyone here has already seen it or this. You can go through months and months of YouTube videos and see that I've been up here multiple times, even with different council members present.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Days, you can go ahead and one more time before we deliberate here.
Yeah, the one thing I will go back and say is that this record is specifically to be per se. I'm not a lawyer, so I'll say the Latin wrong, but is that pronounced correctly? Per se means heard from the beginning. Your regulations require you to hear the site plan and the special use permit from the beginning. It does not pick up. That means that all these documents that you're being told exist, why are they not here? When I turned in a list and asked, why do you not have topographies? Why do you not have this laundry list of stuff? It's because they don't exist. You have a Mr. Garrett that keeps sending word that they exist, but you should have one document with Mr. Garrett's signature on it, and that is a statement attesting that it is complete. And I am saying there is no evidence of that document. So you have no direct evidence from Mr. Garrett that he's dealt with this. You should have a document in front of you where he is certified. And if you don't have that document, then you have no reason to believe. And the thing about the whole thing you've been dragging for 2 years is because the concept plan has been being presented for 2 years. The site development plan has never been prepared, never been submitted to this town, just the concept. And I provided you with proof in the first thing of the things you should be able to lay your fingers on. It goes through a list. And if you can't lay your fingers on them, why not? And that's because and why isn't Mr. Garrett here? And I object to the land development coordinator not being here. But, so I ask you once again to deny this permit. I will go back and say they're polluting, you might want to table this one too and get some legal advice, or an attorney general's position is what I would ask that you do, is instruct your attorney to get an opinion from the attorney general on some of this stuff, and they do it. He's the only one, y'all are the only ones that can ask it. But they are asking you to do stuff that's not right. It says that if the listing, karaoke, stuff like that, isn't a specific use, that it is a prohibited use. And the way that they're trying to do is take things that should be on one-on-one review. You're supposed to get a special use permit for one karaoke, for one carnival, for one circus. If they're low thresholds, Connie could have passed them. Higher thresholds, y'all would have passed them. But what they're doing is giving something that should have somebody's eyes on it every time. They're giving it a blanket right that changes the land use code. By putting it in the fashion they do, they're giving blanket rights that only he has. I am not entitled to those rights across the street. He should be coming every time for a special use permit, but for some reason they're all blanketed into a one-time forever, and this board does not have that authority to grant it, and I ask you to get the Attorney General's opinion on it if you don't, not sure you're being told the right thing tonight, and I'll end that.
Thank you, Mr. Dix. Before we deliberate, Mr. Lander, Connie, anything before we head in here into deliberations?
Now, we have public input before we have
Public. Anybody from the public have any input to give? Okay. Anything, Mr. Lander, before we deliberate? Or? No. All right, so what are the thoughts, comments, concerns here on the board?
This is, like I said, first time, this is way over my head. A lot of research. I don't know the legalities. It's supposed to be broken, and it's something that, well, it's gonna take me time to look into it on my part. I say we want to take it like we did the last one.
I think that's what we have a town attorney for, to direct us in these things, because I don't think any of us have done our research on the ordinances of what have been broken, what hasn't been broken. I think that's what we have a town attorney for, just tabling these things on and on and on and on and on. So I think I would like direction onto the accusations of what Mr. Dix said, of the things that we've broken or that that we do not have jurisdiction to make decisions on. Was any of that correct?
jurisdiction to make this. I think you have jurisdiction to make decisions on all of these things. And I know yourself, Terry of coming sort of on the amen hour, really, the absolute amen hour of all of this.
Amen.
And my opinion is that the process that has been done, and I don't want to throw Mr. Garrett under the bus, we said his name 10 times here tonight, but he's our county planner. He shepherded us through this process. The process that we've gone through has been vetted many times throughout the, I think this was going on when I got here several years ago. It's definitely going on in time out here. And that it has continued with multiple public hearings, quasi-judicial hearings, workshops, or other public hearings, and it resulted in the final order that was entered on December 18th. And he has reviewed the appeal, both appeals filed by Mr. Dix, and he didn't feel like that they were sufficient to warrant an overturning of the decision. Now again, I'm speaking for him because he's not here, but that's what was conveyed to me. If he didn't say anything in these appeals that was sufficient to overturn the final order that was entered back in December. So that's what I can tell you. I know we've already voted to table the first one, so that one is going to have to come back. But you can vote on the special use permit appeal tonight, if you choose to. Does that answer your question?
Sure.
Any other questions for anyone, I guess, but also for the town attorney before we open the floor, before I open the floor for a motion? Mr. Harold?
I'm just wondering, would it hurt to table this one, and then that way, like Mr. Coon said, if there needs to be a workshop or any discussion, you can discuss both issues and handle them at the same time.
I would just refer you to what our town council just said, but we hear you, we're making that decision now. So, the way I see it, we have, we can table it to do this again, to have our attorney tell us probably, I imagine probably similar things to what he's saying tonight, unless any facts or anything changes. Or we can decide on this issue here tonight. I think it's been vetted for at least a good 2 years. So, if we're not, yeah.
What do you mean by vetted?
Vetted. Yeah.
Vetted as we put to rest.
No, I may have said that. Yeah, so we'll need a motion to deny his appeal, approve his appeal, or table this one as well.
I'm gonna make a motion that we table it like we did the other one and ask Mr. Garrett to be here at the next meeting. Everybody's always spoke for him. I would like to hear him say that everything in these plans that Mr. Dix says is wrong.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Unrelated, that might
If he
involve
is our-
someone driving him.
If he's our planner and all that, I would love for him to be here.
I was trying, hopefully not to bring that
Yeah.
up, there's a, and we have to do it at a different time. But we could certainly talk to him about that and try to arrange something along those lines.
Okay. So
And
we have,
are we allowed to phone him?
I don't think at this point you should.
Okay.
Okay.
That answers that, thank
Okay,
you.
so we have a motion to table this to the next meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. It's not tabled. We need a motion to either approve or deny Mr. Dix's appeal on special use permit.
I make a motion that we deny.
Is there a second? I second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Very well. Question now.
I got an order.
Procedurally, if we have heard his appeal, the town council voted, it was no majority decision made. What do you recommend? Do we rehear this one as well? Or do things stand as they currently are, which is the last action the council took is special use permit is approved? All we have to bring up again is the site plan appeal.
I don't believe the tie vote is going to act to deny the appeal. I think that the four of you, unfortunately, we don't have a fifth council member, need to either work it out or if you can't work it out tonight, vote to table it. Either vote it up or down or table it. I don't think that the denial, or I'm sorry, the tie of a vote is going to act as a denial. I don't think I understand. So this is just I'm dealing with this on another board as well, where you have a missing board member, so you guys have to make a decision about, either put it off to the next meeting, or vote it up or down.
I guess Councilman Kuhn said his concerns is he wants to hear it directly from the town planner's mouth. And I believe, Mr. Lander, you did hear it directly from the town planner's mouth, that nothing that he saw in this appeal warrants overturning the decision that we already made last time. Okay. Councilwoman Terry, what would alleviate your concerns?
I would just like to see him openly discuss so that I personally have a better understanding. And I think it's fair to Mr. Dix regardless of the outcome.
Okay, so we have kind of a gridlock.
Keep talking.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just trying to be fair to both of them.
Yeah.
They've had a long, hard battle. Okay? Mr. Dix is a citizen of Fort White. They both, I just want to see what Mr. Garrett has to say. We hear that he done this, done that. Like I said, I ain't seen no signatures with him saying all this is legal. But all this, in his perspective, is right. I mean, that's just we've already tabled the first part of it. That's just my opinion. I'm just one person.
Does he actually exist?
Yes, he does.
I bet you got a paycheck.
I've known Mr. Garrett, I'm sure several people in this room know Mr. Garrett for 25 plus years. When I first started practicing law, he was working for the North Florida Regional Planning Council. He was one of their lead planners for many years. Anyway, I think, if the council wants to hear him, I'm sure he'd be happy. Again, I'm speaking for him. I feel really bad. I feel like I spoke for him a lot tonight, and I don't know what else to say.
Is he sick or disabled or?
Vision.
It's a vision issue, so we may have to have a meeting during the day, or you may have to arrange for someone to drive.
Mr. Richardson, go ahead,
I was just gonna volunteer, I'll go pick them up and bring them back home, I've known him for years.
Can we call him?
Tonight?
Can
Wait,
we
I know.
Oh. All right.
I would move on.
Okay, well,
You can't move
before we
on,
move
you
on,
have to
we've got
decide.
No, but
Right, you got-
that's what
you
I
gotta
mean by
decide.
move on.
Councilwoman Merritt, what are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts is that it's been to mediation. So I highly doubt that there's Mr. Garrett coming is going to bring any more insight than what has already been discussed and mediated and all of those things. And if there was no site plans and things that couldn't have been done, that would have been worked out in mediation. So I'm just going to be truthful with going through, trying to understand and go through all these ordinances and things that he mentioned before the next meeting, and then having to develop an understanding and all of that. It's just, to me, it's redundant and going through things that have already been, squared away with mediation, and we were just agreeing and approving the special uses and things that they mediated with. Now we're going backwards. To me, that's my thoughts.
The mediation was a side agreement to stop the lawsuit. This is where the public has the right to have input on zoning changes. The mediation was about what the town and the applicant would agree to stop a lawsuit. This is where we say, how will that affect the neighbors and the property owners around? So it's not, this is a first step of it, because mediation has nothing to do with this. That's why I asked him to step down, because he was invested in mediating and come to a conclusion. The only product you see in front of you today is the product that your mayor and applicant derived at mediation, what would stop the suit. We're here today to see how that would affect the people that live around it. And so, and I've gone on statement, you're supposed to have had documents from Mr. Garrett with his signature assuring you that it's right. And also, as you're sitting on the board as a zoning member, you don't have the option of not understanding these documents. I served on it for 10 years myself in Columbia County. You must know the documents or you can't be on the board. I mean, or you have to have very, and also, just to point out, and I'll shut up, Mr. Garrett is third world word, in which is hearsay, seems to be giving you legal advice, and I don't think he'll do that when he gets here, because things of how you could, in my 10 years on the zoning board, whenever I was instructed as a board member how to do stuff, it was from the county attorney. It was never from our land use administrator or any of those guys. The county attorney always, with Marvin Fiegel or Joe Foreman, told us every answer to everything, and I've sat under those guys for 30 years. And so this may be y'all's first time, but it's far from mine. This man here, he's had to, I've sued him, he had to sign a notice of service. I mean, I've been through this.
All right, we'll take one more public comment, and then we got to make a decision. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know
What's your
what's
name?
I'm Sharon Diego. I don't know what he means about not having a zoning hearing or whatever he's talking about. Did this thing not go through zoning?
Yeah, they
Thank you. Okay, and the other thing I'd like to say is Mr. Dix is giving you a master class in what needs to get done around this town for sure. A lot of brick walls that you're facing. No staff, no administrative staff. Mr. Dix complaints. You've got a lot of concerns and a lot of issues that you have to address. And I just hope that you get real serious about it in your staffing and in getting somebody else on that dais, because obviously having an empty seat tonight really hurt us in time management as much as anything else. So I really would like to see you guys move forward as quickly as possible, but as prudently as possible in all of the decisions that you have to make. Thank you.
All right, I mean, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. We've heard it all before. So we have to approve, deny, or table. So.
Point of order, can they remand it back to the board?
So, approve, deny, or table motion is what we're looking for here. I mean, I don't know that at this point we're going to get anywhere. we don't think that we can approve this based on the process for the past 2 years. So, now, Mr. Lander, do you, if you want, do you personally have any, would you have any concerns, I guess, if this special use permit were approved or denied? From, I guess, like a legal,
I think you guys have considered the evidence on both sides. I don't think that it's a legal question for me to say anything other than that the process has gone through, and the process has been reviewed. I think that the council has to make a decision whether or not they're comfortable with the process as it stands. So I'm not going to, I don't want to sound like a fifth council member.
and I mean, we know this, but this council approved the site plan and the special use permit. I mean, we approved that already. So we can stand by our previous decision, which was a result of 2 years of vetting and working things out, entire addition to the land development code, which was the food truck park ordinance, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we can stand by that decision that we made. And I think, it was last month, so everybody here who was here. Or not.
I'm not trying to deny or approve it, I'm just asking for a month to go along with the other part of it, with the appeal. I mean, there's another part we gotta go through anyway.
That's separate. Yeah. That one's separate.
Yeah.
So you just requested the most important part is to hear from Mr. Garrett.
Yes, that is. He's the one that's hired to make the decision, because either way, one of them's gonna take a step, the next step, which is the lawsuit.
Yeah. I mean, we made the decision.
Yeah, I understand that, but whatever decision we make, we're gonna get a lawsuit.
Yeah, maybe not.
I am considering being an intervener in the existing suit. I do have concern that this council will allow themselves to settle in court by a judge under unfavorable terms, so we are investigating being an interpleader and intervener in that suit. She may have to do.
Thank you.
I believe lawsuit's been dismissed.
Yeah. Yeah. But so,
Okay.
gentlemen from the collective, after we did everything we did, went through everything that we went through, finally last month came, approved the site plan, approved the special use permit, they agreed to dismiss the lawsuit. Now, it's our mission history, you've been given plenty of time to comment. And as of now, I think, yeah, Mr. Lander said, they have dismissed their lawsuit. So now we have another threat of a lawsuit. I mean, I don't know that it's good policy for the town council to just, not that this is happening, but every time someone brings a lawsuit, I mean, what do we want to do? We want to stand our ground or not? Anyone could bring a lawsuit. I mean, we have the information that we have. We have Mr. Lander saying, our town attorney saying, yada, yada, yada. So, floor's open for, I guess, not that I need to say it, but I'll say it anyway. I think the main driver behind how we reached the determination that we did last month with the collective wasn't necessarily the threat of the lawsuit, I don't think. It was that the residents of the town of Fort White wanted the collective there. And they want the collective there. So that's overwhelming. So go ahead.
I don't think anything that he has said is leading to shut down the collective.
They can have 8 trucks.
Mr. Dix, please, we're deliberating among the council.
I don't want the collective shut down, if that's
I
what you
don't
think
either.
my angle is.
No, I'm not saying anybody wants to shut down. What,
I don't either.
I'm not saying
I'm
anyone
not, I'm not trying to shoot them down at all. I just want another month so I can see what Mr. Garrett got to say.
right, I'm not saying anyone wants to shut them down. I'm saying, after this 2-year process,
Equal protection under the law.
Mr. Dix, please. Please come into order. Nobody interrupted you. You've had plenty of time. Please, keep it together. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not saying anyone was trying to shut them down. And I think we also, from the tone that we set, need to consider how do we want small businesses to feel, how the town council will treat them. So if there's another small business thinking about coming into downtown and they're watching this, what incentive do they have to do that? When they know what, I mean...
When they know what?
Well, they know that after 2 years of these deliberations, nothing being presented as wrong from our end, but someone just saying it's wrong. Now we go back on 2 years worth of work and go back on our own decision.
Ain't nobody going back on the decision.
We're not reaffirming our previous decision.
We will next month.
Supposedly, we were supposed to this
One or
month.
the other.
We were supposed to, and everything said. Anyway, the floor is open for a motion. Is it quick, Commissioner Fortune? Go ahead, it's quick.
I was just gonna say, I was at the last meeting. I saw it. You know, it might just need to, you need to give an opportunity for Mr. Dix and the collective to come to some kind of agreement. Because here at the last meeting, Mr. Dix, which is owns a business here in town, owns a residence here in town, right, on both sides of the collective, you shut him down at the meeting the last time. Would not allow him to talk. You rammed it through the vote. You rammed the vote through. If you would have just given Mr. Dix a time to talk at the last meeting, this could all been resolved at the last meeting. But instead, you would not allow any conversation on it. You rammed it through, and that's how you ended up in this position. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Ford, for your opinion. So, floor is open for, not even going to respond to that, floor is open for a motion for approval, denial, or tabling.
I make a motion to table this until the next meeting. Give us an opportunity to do some research, have the gentleman come, either escorted by James or someone of his choosing, or change the time, whatever, you know, make an effort to make accommodations to have everyone present.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay, all right, so this special use permit has been tabled for
Wait a minute, what was the vote?
3-1.
3-1, I nay. Okey dokey, well, I don't know where my agenda is. Man.
Next on the agenda is FERDAP grants.
Oh, yes. Okay, FERDAP grants.
Doug?
Yeah, and, Doug, you can go ahead and make a comment on that, and
Well, first of all, we wouldn't be at this point talking about $100,000 for the town if it wasn't for Connie and Debbie. They made it very easy. When I came to this town 2 years ago, she spent a whole afternoon taking me throughout the town and showing me everything she hoped would happen in Fort White. So we did win $100,000. This is the screen for Dees Memorial Park. It shows the planned primary facilities and the support facilities, and we're asking to administer all of that for $4,000. Now, the next slide is the Johnny Bryant Park, also $50,000. You see the primary facilities and the support facilities. We're asking to administer that for $4,000. And we initially offered you a contract for $2,000. That made $100,000 for the town. So I think we would like to close this grant out. It's obvious the town's going to be busy filling this office. We can take care of this. We can get the improvements ready for Dees Park. Dees Park is actually complete, and we're not that far away from Johnny Bryant. So this year, the residents and this council can see $100,000 in improvements for the two parks. And so we asked for a granted administration contract that we can offer you tonight.
okay, go ahead, Councilman.
I'm not objecting to it. I just want to note that it's the first time I've seen a breakdown of dollar figures. And I think that we might be missing something that has to be considered, just because I've been trying to do some research on some of this also. There's not handicap parking at either one of those parks, and that might need to go forward before anything.
Well, when we do the renovation parking for Johnny Bryant, we certainly can do that. When I came to the town that first time, 2 years ago, when I think of Johnny Bryant Park, I saw a front-end loader holding up the basketball court.
Yeah,
It was in terrible shape.
It's still in
So
terrible
it's
shape.
going to be a tremendous boost to do this kind of work. And yet, we certainly can do handicap, yeah.
According to what you have there, are those things in stone?
No.
Okay, because
No.
like,
The prices are not in stone, and neither are the facilities. The methodology is in stone, and the grant award is in stone, but we have a lot of flexibility.
I know that, I'm still talking. I know that last time we had that moved to the county, and I'd like to hear what progress they've done. There's someone from the county?
Oh, yeah, Mr. David Krause, yeah, Mr. David Krause, please, what?
While he's coming up here, I just want to add, with those handicap parking, and this is just my guess, there's going to have to be a sidewalk from the parking to a picnic table, or to a basketball court, or to a play station. You know, it's going to have to be ADA approved, so that's going to be a blob of money.
I don't know that it has to be approved by what you're saying. The grant money, I believe, can be spent in accordance with the application, but
I just know
Yeah,
why we
it's a-
have money, those things definitely need to be on the table, because that is coming.
go ahead, Mr. Krause.
Okay, David Kraus, Columbia County. It's great that you got both these grants. It is. 50,000 in your parks, wonderful idea. When I first was told that I was voluntold to administer the grants. I didn't know anything about it. I just got me that it was $50,000 per park. Your staff did a great job of sending me the email and copies of what the proposals were. If it's okay, can I pass out packet?
Yep.
I got one for the attorney and the clerk as well. Basically, in the packet is the site plans that were prepared in the budgets that you just saw. First thing I did is I met with our Parks and Rec landscaping person, Clint Pittman. You're obviously very aware of him. He does the park here by the community center. I said, what do you think? He said, I don't think we can do it for $50,000 per park. I said, why? I didn't know if you needed extra value. My concern is the county. If we're going to do it, we want to do it in a way that meets your expectations. If we do it, and then you come back to us and say, that's not what we expected, that it doesn't work that way. If we're going to do it, we have to have open communication. In here, in this packet, you'll see there is the check and the specifications and the invoices from when we built the playground equipment over at the community center over here in Fort White. It was about $68,000 for one piece of playground. So if your budget's $24,000 for a PlayStation, you're not going to get that. So if you're expecting us to produce that for $24,000, it's not going to happen. So if you want the county to participate in this, you've got to have open communications on what you expect and what you don't expect. You're right, there is no handicapped accessibility. One of your parks doesn't even have parking. These parks, I don't believe you have any parking. You talk about, the other brand, you talked about renovations to the parking lot, $750. I'm not sure what you can do for $750 to renovate a parking lot. It talks about renovations to the ball field. It didn't say what that meant. So again, I'm just asking for open communications of if you're expecting the county to participate, we understand what you're actually looking for, because we don't know. Right now, if I give it to my landscaping people, they will tell you they can't do it for that.
Yeah, and I think that's reasonable. If we're going to have the county do it, we need to tell them what we want. So I spoke to you, Mr. Carlson, and I called the coordinator in Jeremy P. Yeah, Jeremy P. And he let me know that the state will, this doesn't, I'm not speaking on the fact that we have to tell you what we want.
Right.
This is, aside from that, they will work with us. I'm trying to find a word here. They will work with us on these items. What I mean by that is, for example, if we prioritize renovating the parking, doing the lighting, doing a water fountain, et cetera, and we have $10,000 left for a PlayStation. He said the word PlayStation is somewhat vague. So long as what we buy and put there qualify, and they'll work with us. We'll know beforehand. We're not going to get like cut off at the knees and they, oh, this doesn't qualify, so you're out of the whole 50 grand. So they will work with us. So we'll know before we spend any money or do anything whether or not it will qualify for this grant. They'll say, hey, PlayStation, yes, is vague enough to include that $5,000 piece of equipment, or not. We need to find another one, or whatever. So, right. So I say that to say this doesn't preclude Doug from managing it, the county from managing it. We simply would just have to let the county know or Doug know, hey, this is what we want to do. Go ahead.
Well, we won the grant. So the county is in a position to take over our work. There's a matter of fairness and responsibility. It took a year to win that grant. My associate and I have been at this for 25 years. We've done Stark, Lake Wales, Lake Butler. We have the expertise to get this thing going. We could do Dees Park this month. We've already wasted a month and you guys pushed us under the bus last month. I don't want to be pushed under the bus. So this time, no offense to the county,
None taken.
we want this grant. We want it. The governor approved all the grants that year. These are very difficult. You've got plenty to worry about over here. Let us finish this grant. We want it fair and square.
Do we want what? Go ahead.
I think that the misconception is that the county is used to doing things on a much grander scale than what the town of Fort White envisioned when they applied for this grant. Yes, a $68,000 or $180,000 PlayStation would be fabulous, but that's not what we had in mind. We have catalogs that show there are PlayStations that we can obtain in the $14,000 range. And that's not near the grandiose vision of what's down at the South Side complex right now. That's all y'all are used to working with because of the funds available. We don't have those funds, but that's not to say that the $50,000 that we do have cannot accomplish this on here.
And I agree with Connie on that. I found out about this, I wasn't even at the last meeting. I was just told the board voted, we're doing it. If you look,
Mr. Ford
I
volunteered.
know, he volunteered, I get that. If you look at your grant agreement, what you agree to with the state includes all of those elements. So, that's what I'm saying is, you know, I don't want us to produce something that you're not having. You know, we're not asking for the business, but if you want us to help you, we're happy to do it. We want to do it in a way that you're satisfied with the results. And we don't have the information that we can do it.
Do you know if it would include a handicap parking space? Johnny B. Bryant has nothing.
I don't know you can do a handicap parking space for $750. Now, you can move the monies around and re-budget.
Yeah, I mean, does that fall under playground equipment or whatever the grant specifies?
Doug.
It would qualify under parking.
Dougie?
Yeah, you go.
Well, first of all, we're arguing over the grant. A year ago, we didn't have 100,000. We can work with the state. I've worked with the same people that the mayor talked to. We can do this grant. We've done Bushnell. I've done projects in Hampton. We can get Dees Park done in probably 4 weeks. The county has plenty to take care of. We can take care of this. There's no need. And I don't want to add any more friction between the county and the city. We can help do this. We have proved to you we can do it. $100,000 is $100,000. And has the town won for that before, Connie?
No.
Okay, so
Yes, I have a question, reference specifically Dees Park, and Council Member Terry mentioned ADA compliance, which is very important. Any government, say county or municipality that I've been to, a park or a public meeting space, has its ADA compliant. Dees Park has no, which is handicap accessible. Dees Park has no parking except grass. There's holes in the dirt. It's dark, I see lighting, which is great, but I don't see, I mean, to be able to make that handicap accessible or just come up to ADA compliance, for those two grants, is that $50,000 each park, or can the money be moved between each park? Yes, the concern, I live by Dees Park. I watch, you know, what's going on over there at night when the lighting's not there, and it's not good things. We've called the sheriff's office several times, but that is definitely something that will be brought up in the future, not being handicap accessible. And if you're with a family and you have grandma or grandpa or a handicapped child that they can't go to the park because it's not accessible, that could be an issue.
Thank you, ma'am. What was your name, ma'am, for the?
Karen Harrell.
Okay. Go ahead.
And this is a start, Mayor. We can come back during the summer and go back again.
And next year, right. So these two grants, obviously, I think, you know, that, it's not gonna solve, right, every improvement that the human mind can fathom in these two parks. It's a start, we do some. If we get it closed out by, Jeremy told me, at the fiscal year, end of September, I think, and apply for new ones, we can apply for more. And next year, we would have had this knocked out. Maybe we get approved for another 50,000, maybe then we can have, you know, whatever we prioritize. If we prioritize the handicap parking this time, next time we'll have. It's not, so, go ahead.
I just think, you know, whatever's added is an addition, obviously, but I think that it needs to be prioritized, and I'm sticking with the ADA compliance, because those numbers can be juggled. And somebody, of course, this is an extreme example, but I might not be able to supervise my child on the PlayStation if I can't get out of my car and go to the park area itself, you know, if it's not accessible. So I would just think that is part of the pioneer or part of the baseline of the park. And that's not, I know that you can do that. That's not discounting either party concerning developing or using those funds. Let's just use them wisely. Like the meeting before, I'm not sure if it was last meeting, I kept saying how bad the basketball court was with Johnny B. Bryant Park. That park is just an embarrassment to our town. It's so run down.
So at this point, so I don't, this agenda item wasn't to make a decision on specifically how we're going to allocate the money.
I want it heard, that's why I'm saying it.
Yeah, no, that's it. Who, at this point, do we want, I guess I'll open the floor for a motion if we want to leave the grant with the county or we want to give it back to Doug. He works on it, he works with us. What do we, I'll open the floor for a motion.
I make a motion that we leave the grant with Doug.
Well, right now, it's with the county, so you want to change it back to the.
Yeah, the county, they're basically saying they can't guarantee that we're gonna get what we want or anything.
You can't either at that price.
Well, we worked for it, so at this point, I think we give them a fair chance.
Yeah, we can come back next year and keep going. Some of the communities we've been working
Give it to the county because of the $15,000 more money we would have.
But now it's four.
Yeah, it wasn't that. Go ahead,
Project engineering and the grant
Will we
administration
decide
plus
the
the
priority
other
list
part.
of the items, or that just falls on Doug?
Right, so I don't, my understanding, Doug, I don't know that you can proceed without us telling you what we want, the decision,
If
right?
you give us the contract, we will immediately walk. Connie is still here. Should we have the commencement documents ready in December, ready to go? Within 4 to 6 weeks, you'll see improvements in Dees Park.
Right, so he'll provide us with the commencement documentation on how we'll spend the money.
And I've been working with you for 2 years, okay?
So before we have a motion, is there a second? Give the.
There's a motion.
Oh,
To
sorry.
give, yeah, after, to give the FERDAP grants back to Doug, who wrote them, who wanted to set it. So that was the motion, is there?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of giving FERDAP grants back to Doug? Is it technically you or is it Andy Easton? To Doug Sanders?
Andy and this week Connie.
Okay, I just think
That's
the
the
word.
advantages of owning your own company. You have somebody underneath doing that.
Okay, so all in favor, giving the grant back for management to Doug Sanders, say aye? Aye. All opposed, say nay?
No.
Okay.
And I want to add this. I respect the county. I said that in December. I've told this to you. This is a charter county. Columbia County may be the smallest charter county in the state. When I think of a charter county, I think of Osceola, Orange County. When I found out that Columbia County is a charter county, that speaks for itself.
Thank you. Okay, if I could, oh, yes.
this does not cause any rift at all with the county. The county is not upset one way or the other, whichever way the board wants to go, we're fine with. You know, we're not, it's not a problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
On that note, I want to say this. Hold on. I had been letting people comment from what they were, and I made Commissioner Ford come up here. I apologize to Commissioner Ford, I shouldn't have done that. I set the precedent, I was letting people sit there and do that, I should have done the same for you. Just want you to know that, I want to say it.
I'm used to it.
Okay. Well, okay, but if I made a mistake, I have no problem saying it. So, okay, last one,
Yes,
and we're moving on.
yes. Just to, Doug, I have a question. For the planning, you said that Dees Park can start within 4 weeks, be completed in 4 weeks. As far as the PlayStation or the equipment, the lighting, will the residents have input on that? Or even the layout? Yes.
Call your councilperson.
Okay, and is there any, I know often I've seen in other counties, like the sheriff's office, they have crime prevention through environmental design, CEPTED, where they come in, they can look at parks, different businesses, facilities, and okay, is the lighting in a good place? Do we have landscaping here? Does this play equipment? Is it where people can hide and do drugs or whatever they do in that park sometimes? So I think we need to really get the community involved and residents as well, not just start building it. Because I live there, I look at it every day. I think there could be a lot of good use out of the park, but I really think that we should have input as well.
And I would like to answer, let us finish this.
Okay.
And let's start that discussion this summer. And when we come back, I'll have the consensus of the community. But let us close this out.
Okay.
Let us show the state we have handled $100,000. And let us go forward. Because I think Tallahassee's paid attention to Fort White. All of a sudden, we're a Main Street city. And we won $100,000. Believe me, they pay attention to towns that, you know, dot the i's and cross the t's, so to speak.
Wouldn't Main Street be able to help with some of this once it's up and running?
Main Street can certainly participate, yes, sir.
Okay, all right, we're moving, all right, we're moving. Okay. Agenda item 12, town clerk and the assistant town clerk. Okay. Right, so, Mrs. Burkeen is gone in 2 days, Friday. Mrs. Johnson is gone, what is it, 4 business days, not even a full week, 5 business days. We've had some applicants. I bring this up to, not recommend, I guess just ask the council, do we want to have someone in there in the before they leave, basically is what I'm saying. So say come the 29th, when Mrs. Johnson is gone, then what? Right? So I think that's a question that we need to ask ourselves and we need to decide on. I called most, not quite all, most of the applicants, spoke to them. One of them is here tonight with us. I forget her last name. I don't even know her first name. Boudreaux. She's an applicant for a town clerk. We have applicants for the assistant town clerk position. I think all their resumes are here. Her name is Angelia Neal. She can start tomorrow. And it doesn't have to be permanent. It could be probation, 3 months, 6 months, et cetera, whatever. But just someone here to answer the phone and keep the lights on and like pay the maintenance workers, for example. Before we get into just thoughts, comments of the council on the situation that is right in front of us.
I don't know if this is legal or appropriate or however it works, but can a single person, meaning one, sign a check as far as employee payroll? But I would hate to hire dead weight, is what I'm getting to. I'd rather close the door than have dead weight in there, and I don't know the applicants. And I don't know that we need 2 people in there.
Right? So, and we can work around that. We can have someone in there for 60, 90 days. I'll let Ms. Burkini speak on who has to, so right now your name is on the checks that are on the account, mine and Councilwoman Terry.
Correct.
So it requires 2 signatures.
Any 2.
Yes or no? So any 2. So it will either be, well now it's myself and Mrs. Burkini. It will soon be myself and yourself. So who's going to get the checks ready? Who knows what they make? Who knows how to pay it? Go ahead. Yeah.
You and I have talked about this.
Yes.
What I'm recommending to the town council is that you contact an employment agency and have a temporary person brought in here. That way you're not bound for any sort of benefits, you're not bound for any sort of contractual agreement with them for employment. It is strictly day to day or week to week, whatever. But that would give you time to continue to look, interview, check references, drug test, remember we passed the drug policy, etc. So, in the meantime, as far as preparing checks, I highly recommend, and I have contacted for you Powell and Jones, who does our year-end auditing, and asked them if they would be amenable to doing the payroll and the accounts receivable and the accounts payable. My recommendation is to you not to act in haste, because there's a lot on the table here. There's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot on the table. And honestly, it's not fair to throw someone in here and expect them to pick it up in 2 days' time before I leave. It's not fair for them to do that.
No one who comes in will have your skills.
So, yes, I agree. If Cowell agrees, I would love to have a firm who we could just hire and they're paying the bills. They haven't responded to me yet. So
he said to me today that he was going to speak with Noah Lady is our contact with Powell and Jones, and it's owned by a gentleman by the name of Caleb and another gentleman which I can't pull up his name. Caleb came and presented the year-end audit here to this town council a couple of months ago, and they are of course qualified. They do it for many businesses. All we're waiting to hear on is will they do it? Because I asked one other firm in town in Lake City if they would do it. They said no, they were too busy. So I think the fact that they do our auditing, our year-end auditing, they would find the time and the effort to help out the town of Fort Wayne, because they want to keep us as a customer.
right, and I agree that's best case scenario. But if they say no, how do we pay Buster and the guys?
Do they do like
That's what we have to
time?
consider.
They do payroll.
Yeah. If they say yes, we're good. I agree.
I mean, you just write a check.
Well, you have to know what the tax rate is, you have to know what the Medicare rate is, you have to make tax deposits to the state.
Getting all that on the chart.
It's not.
Right. So go ahead.
What about the, I want to understand, the city league of,
League of Cities,
yeah, do they have temporary help?
they're in Tallahassee.
They don't have temporary help they can send out?
No.
And again, I don't disagree with Mrs. Burkini. I don't think we should make a full-blown hiring decision a year, but we can control the contract, right? We can even do it for 30 days. We could say, hey, we'll bring you on for 30 days. If at the next meeting we got a payroll service doing payroll for us, great. But if we don't, then what?
If you're gonna bring somebody here, you don't know nothing about it, what are they gonna do?
Well, I think if we bring someone here who's willing to start tomorrow, they can at least learn how to write the checks.
You don't have one person in those resumes or anything like that that has QuickBooks experience.
But that doesn't mean they can't learn how to do it well enough to at least just cut the check. I don't love the situation that we're in either. I'm just trying to think of worst case scenario for the town. I would love to have I'll get to someone who applied who's willing to start tomorrow with many years. One second, hold on, one second. But that's not.
Does she got one?
City council, come on.
She don't have one?
Maybe we can talk her
into She don't have another job yet. She does.
Yeah, right.
Debbie don't, we might could ask her to extend. That would be my suggestion, the first thing to do.
You can ask, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can say no.
Yep. Go ahead, Mr. Cook.
The county, why can't the county do it? They want to take over the FERDAP grants. Everybody knows they want to take over the town. They do payroll, the clerk does the payroll for the stream utility thing. Why can't the county come in here and write a couple of checks and do payroll? You did it in the past. The county is, so ask them.
They haven't yet. Look,
No, you can ask them tonight.
Good suggestion.
Thank you.
Go ahead, you had one thing.
We're discussing the clerk's position as just accounts payable and accounts receivable, but now you decided to table meetings without a clerk. You don't have no agenda.
Right.
You have, that's just one part of her job. So
Very
the next
small
month you
part.
won't have a meeting because you don't have anyone to write your agenda, to take minutes.
Correct.
We're not gonna not have a meeting.
Who's gonna come? What's gonna be on the
You have
agenda?
nobody to
Will it
take
be
your
publicly
minutes.
posted? Who's gonna do it?
I'll do it, to do an agenda,
There you go.
Okay.
but let's not get that far. Let's be assertive in our efforts.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Mrs. Boudreaux, go ahead.
All right, Ashley Woodrow, as an applicant, I'm not opposed to being on a 30-day probation period of time, just to be able to get in there and dot the Ts or cross the Ts and dot the Is. I don't oppose to that whatsoever.
And Mr. Elwood?
I don't want to discount any of the applicants. I haven't seen their qualifications. Maybe some excellent applicants in there, but I also want to mention that Connie's suggestion of hiring a temp, they match qualifications with the positions, and often the candidates that fill those temp positions turn into long-term. So if they match you with a good person who has the skills, like Connie said, it could turn into a full-time employee in the end. So they don't throw a teenager right out of high school into a town manager or city manager position.
Yeah. No, and I don't disagree. All I wanted to bring up, to have done my due diligence, is to just present the council, say, hey, worst case, yeah, great. Best case scenario, I forget their name. The audit firm says, yes, they're doing our payroll. Great. Great, that buys us a little time. If they say no, then what? That's all I'm saying. And again, like I say, we don't have to make a long-term decision. And I agree. Hey, getting someone in here as the assistant clerk, giving Connie 2 days to train them so that they can train them just enough to write checks. They're not going to be a full-blown town clerk. This is an assistant. Train them just enough to write the checks.
Okay, can I say something? When you hire somebody through a temp agency, the temp agency is assuming the risk.
But when
If you hire them yourself, you're assuming all the risk for errors and omissions, for all kinds of things.
How quick will the temp agency act? Do you know?
It depends on what their employment pool is and what kind of applicants they have on file that could meet your needs.
And then we
It all
have to
depends
decide.
on what you ask for.
Right, and then we have to decide to hire them or not, which would require a meeting. Who's going to do the agenda and put everything up and do all the prep work and everything that goes and do the recording, everything for the next meeting.
Given the knowledge of the drug-free workplace that we just adopted, you're not gonna get anybody in here that quick. The drug-free workplace requires you to do drug testing and go through MRO and all of that before you can hire somebody from. I manage that in my department with the city of Gainesville, so I know that could be a 2-week process. So it may be the employment agency, maybe the thing. We can't, if we are adopting this drug-free workplace to be implemented immediately, you're not gonna get anybody in here today.
But from a pool, you can't, because they'll already be.
That's through the express
Through a
employment
temp.
people, yes.
So I would, sorry.
Oh, good.
I would suggest putting out requests through the Lake City temp agencies and the Gainesville temp agencies and see what rolls up.
Okay, so.
And that's something you can
And we
do.
can give her approval if she says they meet qualifications to take them in without having another meeting.
By Friday,
We can do that tonight. Now, if she finds somebody, yes.
and if she doesn't,
Well, I don't know.
I mean, we need to know. I mean, with the town council of Fort White.
Either way, you're in the same boat. You have to go the express employment route because the drug-free workplace will not allow you to, I mean, you can't get somebody cleared through them that quick.
Can we,
To start.
and this is the question for Commissioner Lane, can we either, we voted to approve this, can we delay it till a week, a few days, et cetera, whatever? Can we make an exception for the drug-free workplace, like for this policy that we approved? That you don't recommend that? Not a good idea? Okay, so. Okay. I'm asking.
Citizen, but just seemed like a lot of steps of, financial data, maybe like that, somebody you have to bed and have access to. And, might think about having her send Powell back up a QuickBooks or something that she leaves out, because she needs to be careful nobody messes with her numbers behind her. But if you give somebody the passwords, they can cook your books.
Do whatever. Okay.
Why don't we ask Miss Debbie, would she extend her resignation for a few days? Because I know Miss Connie's already got a job. Have you heard that? Right away.
Yes, I would love nothing more. I'm not gonna put that on Ms. Johnson. I've spoken to her. I don't know if she's open to that, but I can come and, I mean, I'm not gonna put her on the spot right now, but I can come and talk to her.
You say when you do something right now, there she is.
So ask her.
Well, I'm more than make approval with council before we ask her to do something.
Well, you can ask her. You don't need her.
Ms. Johnson, would you consider staying on just a little while longer?
We don't hear anything.
No?
She's thinking.
She's thinking? No, think about it.
How long are you needing me?
Well, we'll try to do something quick as we can. That's all I mean. And if you're tired of it, well, give us the notice and we'll do something different. But like, we're just trying to get by, a little while till we can get somebody. I mean,
That's it, yeah.
Miss Connie, I know she's got another job, but I guess you start right away, don't you?
The 3rd, February 3rd. But I'm going to the mountains.
So,
Yeah, interesting. Strangers with the passwords and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to advertise, we need to get a couple more applicants, and it's gonna take us a few more weeks. I don't know if you're up for that, or
I don't know if I'm up for a few more weeks,
a couple weeks?
but I like what you were saying, that I can stay on and see how it goes for
Okay.
a little while,
Huh?
with the understanding that, I'm gonna be looking for other employment.
Yeah, we understand.
I can help with benefits and all
I
that.
understand completely. I love benefits. I love benefits. I didn't have to know where I worked. I got me some, I'm tickled with them. I was off half a day today, got paid for it.
Well, I really have loved working with Connie. I've loved helping everybody in the town, and there are other things I need because of the different changes in employment in our family. And I don't really want to leave you guys in any kind of a lurch, but I do need to move on to other employment.
Completely understand.
So if you can understand that, at what point I really can't say anymore.
How long do we have, do we need to advertise that, Connie? How long does it take before we can have a meeting and pull them in? We might have a special meeting or something.
You can have a special meeting, you'd have to call a special meeting if you get a qualified applicant.
I will do the best I can, but I'm not Connie.
That's all we ask.
And
Best you can.
from a payroll perspective, if these audit people say no, would you be able to write the checks?
Write the checks? I will defer to Connie, she can determine, because I do not plan to be here at any long-term.
Very long. Well, I'm just thinking
Yeah.
because if we write it every 2
And she
every 2
had
weeks.
offered to train me into all of that, but I said, no, I really am leaving, so you need to get somebody in here that she's gonna train that is going to be staying. But as far as the general things with the community center and everything I normally do, I can carry on with that.
Councilman Terry?
Rocky, can the county step forward with someone to come down?
I can't see, I don't know. You know, there's always the option of a payroll company though. I mean, most small businesses now use payroll companies.
I agree.
I mean, we use a payroll company. And it takes all the liability off of the town. They stand behind everything. I mean, you get audited or whatever.
Isn't that something that the bank presented to ADP?
No, they were ACH.
Yeah, that was like an auto thing.
I mean, you can set up a payroll company tomorrow.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that buys us time. I spoke to, which company, I guess, does the county use?
We don't, the county don't. I said my business uses payroll.
Oh, okay.
The county uses clerk courts.
Right, okay, that makes sense.
You could use ADP.
Could use a bucket of courts.
Okay, so we'll, I guess, kind of, can you look up some payroll companies around here and call them?
Well, you're still gonna have an issue with accounts payable and accounts receivable. So if you're gonna have a payroll company, you're still gonna have to go to somebody to handle your accounts payable and accounts receivable. And so it doesn't make sense to be dealing with two separate entities. I think you should, before you make a move, I think you should wait to hear from Powell and Jones. They've done our auditing, they know our income sources, they know our accounts, they know how they're set up, they know everything.
You mean accounts payable, you mean somebody who's authorized to, like, what do you mean, go get the checks, sign for the, what do you mean?
No, pay the bills. Pay the bills and deposit the money when it comes in from the state, things like that.
What?
See,
Right, is that
I
not
go
what
to
payroll
mail.
service, but that's
No,
not what
payroll service
service
does payroll, period.
Payroll for our employees.
Yeah.
Oh,
Payroll,
gotcha.
period.
I'm thinking payroll, okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the way this works is I go to the post office, I collect the mail, I go through the mail, I find the bills, I sort the mail, and I log what checks we receive. But that's just a physical log. And then it goes to Connie, and she's the one that takes care of all the data entry and going from there. So Powell and Jones would be doing that. I could still be doing the receiving for the time being, and they would be doing what she's doing.
Gotcha, so, okay, so as far as a temp agency or all that, as far as getting someone from that, if Connie's able to find someone, we want to just wait and be able to call a special meeting, we want to authorize somebody to make that decision, what do we want to?
I gave you a bunch of numbers for temp agencies. Did you contact any of them?
No,
And
I
send
didn't.
the qualifications?
No, I did not. To be fair, I asked you to do it, and you gave it to me to do it.
Because
And
I said I was going to be gone in 2 days, and if they needed to contact anybody, they would have you to call and talk to them.
I wasn't going to bring that up. I don't know why you threw it at me, because anyone...
Because I'm not going to be here.
But you're here
I'm
now.
going to leave that alone, right? So.
You're here now, and during the next 2 days,
they're gonna be, they have a contract that they're gonna send. I've done this before through the county, hired through temp agencies. They will have a contract, they'll have to send the contract, they'll have to look at the contract, you'll have to sign the contract, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I gave them, I put it off on you, I guess, because you're gonna have to be the one to sign the contract and go through all that. And the more people you throw in the ring, the more confusing it gets.
Well, I just wanted someone just to call them and reach out to them, just to get that ball rolling. So you're saying, does the council need to authorize me to sign that contract and bring someone in?
No, the charter says you can sign contracts.
Okay,
You just have to approve that's the way you want to go.
We're talking about the temp.
For the temp.
Mayor, the county does hire temps once in a while. We do have a temp company we work with. If you'll contact David Kraus tomorrow, he can give you some names. There may be some people at the county that would work afternoons or something that would help do your agenda.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, please.
I just want to reiterate that while you're still working to work.
Oh, I'm working.
I know you are. But if that means contact the temp agents or forward a contract or contact the mayor to come look at a candidate, thank you.
Okie dokie, so,
Do we need to give her direction to call the temp agency or not? You know, she just gonna,
Was that the direction?
maybe give him the call, the contact number.
right, that was right.
Just gonna make a call for him, just to get the contact number.
That's fine.
Mr. Kraus, who could give, that's, I would suggest get Mr. Kraus, so get to using him. Local people.
And is that something you can do, or if not, I'll do it?
That's what, just calling them?
Yes, to try to find out who has worked in what capacity in their office that we can reach out to.
The temp agencies and the county? Yeah, I agree. I mean, I can reach out to the county and the temp agencies. Connie should do it, to be perfectly honest, but. Yeah, so, and that's, do we want to vote on, I already have, but do we want to vote to, first let me ask the question, does it make sense, I haven't read it before this meeting specifically in the charter. It says I can sign contracts. Does it make sense to vote to authorize me in this specific instance to do this with the temp? So I'm covered, or are you, it's good to go as is?
I think that the vote would be to go with the temp agency, and then once they vote to go with the temp agency, and the necessary part of that process is signing the contract. So you have the authority to sign the contract.
Okay. Okay, so do we want to make a motion? Oh, yeah, go.
I'm sorry. And you just said it, but I don't know if you have, Bill, but I know we have never been through a hiring turnover. So again, here's new territory for us. And so anything you can tell us, you know, like we can't have a meeting to interview candidates, correct?
Well, I mean, I guess you had some applicants and maybe you're not ready to move forward on them. I agree. I believe it was Mr. Dix that said it, you have to be careful of who you get in here on a temporary basis.
Yes.
Because they're gonna have access to stuff. Certainly don't think you should call in the clerk, whoever you bring in on the temporary basis.
I agree with that, but that's not really my question. My question is, can we have an interview process where we are an interview committee versus us having a board meeting, a town council meeting?
That would be.
Pardon?
You guys can't gather to discuss anything that may be voted on, unless it's at a call meeting.
So can the mayor at his discretion hire the incoming clerk or the incoming assistant?
If you give him that authority, have an open meeting with
We're talking about the temp.
The temp.
Well, I'm just trying to get some clarity on all of it while we're talking about it. It's all going to come.
I think she was asking, can we have an interview process for the candidate without it being a town meeting?
No.
That's what I was asking, that's just in different words, well said.
Not if it's gonna be, if you guys want to be the ones.
Right. Not just, I'm gonna give it to you, James.
Thank you.
Just now, a third time for you. if Mr. Lander, bear with me.
Okay.
Once the temp, if the temp agency finds someone, once they write up a contract and it comes through and they have a person, I can sign that on my own, unilaterally. I sign it, they're here.
Yeah. Because the board, the council is going to give you the authority to do that.
So we do have to vote on that?
Yes.
Yes, that, yeah, okay. Ms. Bishop?
Okay, what I was gonna say is, you may not be able to interview, but you can, each one of you, get copies of those resumes.
Yes.
And on your own, check that, and I would highly recommend you do background checks.
Yes.
This town came very close to hiring a felon, before Ms. Connie came into the picture. Very close.
Do we want to, go ahead.
Have y'all had the chance to look over the resumes yet?
I have not.
You have not?
Really.
I have not. I've been,
I'm speaking for all of us now, so y'all interrupt. We're not trying to
Oh,
discount you
no,
at all.
I know the whole
We're in
process,
what's
yeah.
called a panic
Oh, of course,
situation.
And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, or anything.
Do we want a motion, I guess we need a motion to direct one, to empower me, or me, well, let's say me, I guess maybe anyone else technically, but me to sign, I guess, the contract, to be able to do a temp agency, bring up.
You don't need a motion for that if we make the motion to approve for an express employment agency or whatever, then automatically.
I get it.
I think
Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Excellent.
I'll make a motion, we give the mayor authority to sign the contract on a temp for the office.
And he doesn't need the motion for that.
I guess what he just said, because that's what I
I
wanted.
need a motion, and they second it, and then you can sign it.
Yeah, well,
We
that's,
just need a motion to go with an express employment agency.
because that's what the attorney said. He said,
I make the motion that we go with an express employment agency.
Thank you.
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
No.
Okay.
No. I just said aye, Sonny. I was kidding.
At least just reach out to him and give him my contact name. Oh, all right, thank you.
And also too, Mayor, if you'll call David Kraus in the morning.
Yes,
Robert, he might can set you up with a local one quick.
Yeah.
Besides what she's gonna do.
Good.
All right.
Item 13,
Item 13 is
RFP,
RFP
yes.
on audit services. A couple months ago, the town council instructed me to issue an RFP for audit services, which is our year-end audit services. We have contacted numerous accounting firms, CPA firms, I should say, in the area, and only 2 were interested, and we're waiting to hear from a third. The third being Purvis Gray, James Moore, and Powell and Jones. I think that probably, from what I've been told, that will end up with Powell and Jones again, because James Moore told me straight out that their starting fee was $25,000. Purvis Gray is another big firm. We haven't heard back from them yet, but Powell and Jones, the gentleman at James Moore told me that we're not going to beat Powell and Jones' price with anybody. So I'm just bringing you up to speed.
great, thank you.
Okay, I'll back up 1 second. We are aware that Ms. Johnson's staying a few more days.
Well, yes,
Okay, all right.
and thank you for asking.
Make that clear. Make that clear.
Okay, where are we at?
Number 14.
The reversion agreement.
Yes.
Okay, this is the equipment agreement the county sent us, I don't know, probably a year ago, 2 years ago, something. I want to make a motion that we sign that equipment agreement and send it to the county as soon as possible. ASAP.
Yep. And I mean, I think we all want this to go away
We do.
very much.
I do.
Now, so I'll just say this, and council decides, but when Commissioner Ford last came up here, he said the original understanding was, hey, this equipment is supposed to belong to the Water Utility Authority. So then this council voted to send an agreement. Well, it was 2, but one of them said, hey, if the town of Fort White ever joins a utility authority, we have no problem, we'll deed over the equipment. However, in the meantime, since we've paid the $300,000, you know, based on what the understanding was, just let us have the title at least in the meantime. So, I mean, does it make sense to allow the county to put it on the agenda and vote on the?
They're not going to.
Why?
You said it 2 months ago, and they haven't made none of their meetings, and they're not gonna do it. They sent us, as I spoke before, Mr. Nixie agreed, we made a bad deal. The county is willing to give us this equipment if we sign that piece of paper.
They're willing to give us title.
That's right, give us title, that's what we want, title. So we can use it. Like sitting out back doing nothing, and they ain't doing nobody no good. I mean, what's the difference? I mean, I don't understand the difference in not signing the paper and sending it to them and say, here, now we can put equipment to work.
The difference is, and we can ask the attorney, but the difference is that technically, in the agreement, the one the county sent us says, hey, they tied it to the water interlocal. They said, hey, if you leave the water interlocal agreement, if you leave it, if you break that agreement, or you just even just non-renew, if you just non-renew,
right,
we can take the equipment back. Now, they say, but don't worry, because we won't do that. I mean,
You just said it, I mean, that's what it says.
right, and then we're out. I mean, what about the $300 the town spent? You know what I mean? So I mean, we can at least allow the county an opportunity to hear it and vote on it. A more accurate agreement. That's according to what Commissioner Ford said. He said it was based on the utility authority. So we said, great. Here's an agreement based on the utility authority, and we presented it back to the county. I guess I don't really see what the issue is or issue would be for them to vote on.
Well, I want to make a motion that we sign the paper they sent us as quick as possible and get it back to the county.
I second that motion.
For clarification, you are motioning to approve the reversion agreement that they sent us?
That they sent us, yes.
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
says that we,
Then
Leave the water
we use
in
the
the
equipment until we, unless they don't run the water, then they take it back. That's my motion. That's the paper that I'm talking about.
Okay, right, so we have a second. Okay. All in favor signing the reversion agreement? All in favor of signing the reversion agreement the county has sent us, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay. Okay, so we'll continue to allow the county an opportunity to vote on the agreements that we voted, and to,
What was that, a tie? Well, don't we have to come up to break it? Now we did the other one earlier?
we proceed, because the last thing that we voted for was,
The motion dies.
right, basically, yeah. So, because the last thing we voted for was to send the county the agreement, so since we didn't approve it, that's where it lands, that's where it stands.
When they come and get it, what was it say? We'll see.
I think it's at their mercy anyway, so but I don't.
Right, why obligate ourselves to unfavorable terms?
So we can use the equipment. That's why. Right now it's parked out back, no insurance, they can't use it.
Right, at least the dump truck anyway, yeah. But, okay. Item 15, go ahead, Councilman.
Can I first ask why you don't want to?
Oh, yes. Yes, I want, so I guess to just reverse the logic. If the county sent us an agreement and we made a decision on it, what's wrong with sending them an agreement and just wanting them to make it, they can say no. They can say no, I mean, right?
And then what are we gonna do?
Then we're crap out of luck. It is what it is. We'll have to sign the reversion agreement if that's what we feel is best. But in the meantime, and again, if what Commissioner Ford said was that it was based on, we were all here, it was based on the utility authority. We signed an agreement to accurately reflect that. That's all. I mean, that's all it is. So, anyway, so that's my reason. Okay, agenda item
15,
15.
February meeting location.
Yes, ma'am.
Fort White Elementary School chorus has said that they would sing for us like they did at that September meeting. If anyone was at the last meeting at the community center, they sang a couple of songs and then left. If they do that for us, we'll have to move our meeting to the community center. And February might be a good time anyway, with all this stuff going on, for more of the townspeople to feel like they could come to the meeting. I think a lot of people don't come because they're kind of captive in this little room, which is no fault of anybody's.
February 17th,
Which
and that's President's Day.
is a holiday.
Okay, so we'll have to change that meeting.
So we'll
No.
leave that again.
And I don't know if that's a school holiday, could we? Well, actually,
They don't
we
observe
talked
it no
about
more.
it.
They don't observe President's Day no more.
And we talked about that date.
For some reason.
Ginger Norris, the choral director.
And I'm not opposed to having a meeting, because that's a good point for more public input. I'm not opposed to having a meeting at the community center. I will say, I generally don't necessarily, not to cut off the kids from being able to sing, but I guess, do you want to have a meeting at the community center for the chorus, or do you want to just have meetings at the community center?
Both. The chorus is, those kids are from the school, who's our #1 employer here in Fort White and in Columbia County, I think. But I'm not gonna fight over it. I'm not gonna fight over it. I would think I'm not gonna fight.
Well, here's the drawback for the
The
February.
cleanup, blah, blah.
Right, the cleanup.
You've got setup, takedown. You need a PA system. You're gonna have to rent a PA system, and then you're gonna have to pay to have it cleaned afterwards.
Right, and so that's why, when I spoke to Connie about it,
We borrowed a PA system the last
Yeah.
time because it was gonna be a one-time thing.
yeah, like, anyway, my opinion is that I don't think it's entirely appropriate to do that at town hall meetings, given all the background work and the cost that the town will incur, to allow the kids to come and sing, which is a good thing. I think everybody agrees on that. Those are just my thoughts on that. So, I guess the floor is open for motions.
I'm not gonna make a motion, but I will say that the town and the children and the schools do need to be incorporated into several meetings per year, whether it be the pledge or perhaps presenting a science project or spelling bee winner or singing. That's our community, that's what we're here for.
Right. I agree it's a good idea generally, and that could be, but not, at a town council meeting. I don't disagree with you that there can't be an event like that. I just don't think it should be at a town council meeting. But anyway, I'll open the floor for a motion and give us some time if there's no motion. What is it?
I asked her, she's not gonna make a motion, she's gonna want to have it.
I thought so. I've had battles with pancakes and Santa and murals and paintbrushes. Someone else can step forward.
I think it's a heck of an idea, but next month probably pretty weary with the help we got in here and what's going on. It wouldn't be the right time. I think after we get somebody hired, I think we can have any damage you want to. I don't care about, look, we can buy a PA system.
February is what,
renting them.
February is what fit their schedule. So,
Yeah.
so let's move on to the next thing.
I don't think there is a next thing.
There is something we didn't, the council seat is empty. When are we gonna make
Oh, yes, so
When
that,
are we gonna fill
You
that?
have to fill it within 60 days, or the governor will appoint.
Okay.
so.
And that was
February.
December 31st.
Does it have to be in the newspaper, or like, with it being on the website, is that all that's needed?
It's on the website, yes.
So we will fill it next meeting?
We will vote on it, yeah. We'll vote on it.
Okay, all right.
Then
You'll
we'll,
have
whoever,
you'll have to vote on it next meeting.
So,
Yes.
so what's the process? Don't we
Submit
score,
resumes.
don't we score the resumes and send us
Yes.
back to
Yes.
whomever's in that office?
The resumes are gathered, and you need to decide what the cutoff date is for gathering resumes. And then the score sheets get sent out along with the resumes to each individual council member that's here now. And the scores are tallied, and whoever has the highest scores is the one that's appointed.
we, I mean, we gotta vote, right? We vote. We vote on who,
The scores vote.
The scores, that way you take the personalities out of it. You score the applications, and there's a score sheet, and you score them accordingly to the different categories. And whoever has the highest number of points collectively between the four of you would be the one that would be appointed.
so,
Can that score sheet
So-
be given us tonight so that we can become familiar with that?
I can send it to you tomorrow. I'll
Okay.
have to go dig it out.
right, so, and I wanna understand this process. So as it stands, we wouldn't.
What you need to decide is, we're gonna accept resumes between now and February what?
Yeah, February someday, okay.
February?
Yeah, we
It's
gotta
already been
vote,
on there a couple
Before the
of weeks.
we gotta vote in February. So when do we wanna cut it off? The meeting is the 17th,
Yes,
Yeah,
that's President's Day. We're doing it on President's Day.
so
So,
it could be the first, it could be the seventh, I mean.
so what about the 7th? That gives us a full week.
Yeah, a week before, yeah.
You good with that?
And, yeah, but before you make that, I have a question, before you make that motion, real quick, Councilman. So, so there is some sort of resolution or something in place where the resumes would not be presented in an open council for a vote, is that right? Or do so we score them and then that's done, or do we come here and then vote?
No,
We
the
voted at the
scores
meeting.
are your vote. Like if you scored this person a 10, 10, 10, 8, 0, and this one a 2, 2, 4, 5, this score would outrank that score. And there's a criteria of what the scores are. Not like, I love your shoes.
Okay, right, nice to hear. Whatever.
Can I ask you a question?
I have, shouldn't we
Is this in a
discuss?
policy? Did you say sure?
Yes, that was my, go ahead, you're about to
Is
ask
this in
my
a
question.
policy anywhere, or has this just been a practice that the town has done?
I'm not sure the answer to that
Right,
question.
yeah.
I just know this is the way it's always been done since I've been here.
To piggyback off what, he took the words out of my mouth.
And James, you recall it, that's the way y'all did it before I was here, correct?
So if there's nothing in writing about that, then we have to vote.
No.
Your score is your
Your
vote.
score is.
They do that for a reason. The county awards all RFQs that way. They score it, it's public record.
RFQ is
Well,
different than appointing. I would,
Same thing.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're wanting to hand pick, sir. For some reason, you're not wanting just a sheet of paper where you can't tell color, can't tell education, background, accent. For some reason, you're wanting to see these people. For her method is you lay them out and you score people based on their merits.
On the resume.
So you're heading kind of a direction.
Yeah, I'm not
away from
Yeah, I think
protect.
you're off base. Do you recommend that? It doesn't matter?
I recommend that we look at what our charter says, if anything, about it.
It does.
That's your point.
Does your point?
If there's a vacancy on the council,
To just rate it behind
You would
closed doors
appoint.
and now it's like, bam, this is the person, I mean.
It's
You have to trust your ratings of these appointed
Yeah, go ahead.
people.
I'm asking. Go ahead.
This is devolving into a, like a family or. If there's no specific language in the charter that says how you appoint a vacant member, time, like when I came here, I think we've had at least two, or three.
Three, I think.
Who magically appeared on the dais when I came to a meeting. And so I have, if that's the practice of how this council has interpreted the word appoint, and they want to continue, and the majority want to continue doing it that way, then I don't know if there's anything against that. If the mayor wants to put forward an idea that says, hey, we want to bring these people in front of us and interview them in an open meeting and choose them that way, then you're certainly able to advocate that as well.
Yeah, and we don't even need to see them, they don't need to be in an open meeting, I don't know, I kind of thought for the sake of transparency, it would be a good idea just to at least have the resumes as part of the packet, maybe do a little discussion, and then we vote on them openly as opposed to, that's all I'm saying, I'm not trying to say anything radical, like.
The resume is part of the packet. You see the resume and you score the resume.
Yes, it's not in the dark. You do it in the council meeting.
That's my question.
And those documents
That's my
are public
question.
record, those ratings can be seen by any citizen after.
That's my question. Okay, thank you, James. So we rate here, so that's basically like the vote. Okay, thanks. I was missing that.
What is the requirement for somebody to be able to run for that seat?
To be an elected.
They have to be a resident for a minimum of 1 year.
The thing is, if they run in like for an election, or do they just have to be a town resident?
They have to be a town resident for a minimum of 1 year.
I don't know.
They took the 1 year off.
That's right. That's to run, that's for election.
No, they removed it. You just have to be a
Yeah.
There's a new
You
charter.
just have to be a resident.
I believe
That's
that's,
right.
yes.
It was a
I
change,
believe
you're
that's
right.
what the change was.
Yep,
So,
So basically, they just have to be a resident for life.
yes.
That's what I thought.
Lisa could do it.
Can you be a county commissioner and the chairman of both?
I think so.
okay, all right, gentlemen. So we got that. So we'll have the resume, we'll vote on that.
So you want until February 7th, is that it?
Yeah, that'll give us a
Gather
week.
together, give
Right.
them out to you with the agenda packets, you could review them that way.
Right, that
along with
works.
the score
Yeah,
sheets.
that
and
would be
then bring
great.
them in.
That works, that works.
Who's gonna do all that agenda packet stuff?
Our new secretary.
I mean, y'all want to have a party at that meeting, you may not have a meeting.
They will.
You may
We don't have
not.
a meeting.
I don't want, I would,
Miss
just
Catherine's
don't
come
project
down.
that
Miss
yet.
Catherine's gonna come down and make sure we have a meeting.
Okay.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
and I'm not
That's
joking
why,
about
I know,
that.
I understand.
As soon as at a legal meeting.
But I want to ask, excuse me,
Let's say there should have been a legal meeting, is what I should have said.
would that not be a legal meeting?
What?
If the clerk is not hired, would the meeting not be legal?
Yeah,
So I'm not sure I'm interpreting your
Well, part of
comment
what the clerk
correctly.
does is they post the notice in the time manner that's required by the law, because that is legal.
yeah.
So who's gonna do
Well,
that?
she can post that before she leaves.
Okay.
We know what the date's gonna be.
Okay.
Is the clerk the only person that can do that?
No.
I mean, the assistant clerk, but, okay, citizen comments. Anybody got anything? Come on, guys, it's only 9:47.
I'll shoot
Okay, council member comments. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second, all right.
Well,
Hey,
Good night.
so much.
Okay.